Chapter 91. The daytime temperature of the ocean in this month was around 28 degrees Celsius. At night, it was much cooler than during the day. The water mist that Ao Daisai sprayed out from the air vent turned into a cloud of white gas and disappeared into the air. Fortunately, his sleeping posture was very normal, and he didn't move around after sleeping. He didn't sink himself to the bottom of the water to sleep like some weird killer whales, nor did he sleep upright in the water like other whales. He just floated on the surface of the water and could breathe at any time. Xiao Qixi and his relatives also floated on the surface of the water, so he didn't quite understand. What were those whales who liked to sleep in the water thinking? They had to float up to breathe every 20 to 30 minutes, so they could only sleep fragmentary. Killer whales needed to sleep for 5 to 8 hours a day. How hard was it to save up 5 to 8 hours of sleep? What Xiao Qixi didn't know was that even when whales were sleeping, their brains were active. Their left and right brains took turns to rest. Even if they slept fragmentary, they could still get the quality of a deep sleep. Moreover, their bodies weren't completely still when they were asleep, and they would occasionally move. Xiao Qixi, who was watching Ao Daisai sleep, thought, let me see if Ao Daisai has the habit of grinding his teeth and talking in his sleep. He had slept from the morning to the afternoon and was not sleepy at all. He could keep watch over Ao Daisai until dawn. In contrast to Lashanda, Ao Daisai hadn't slept for 2 days and 2 nights, and it had been running around for more than a month, so it was already very tired. The baby whale, who had gone out for a walk with his uncle, hadn't been seen for a long time. His mother, Ada, had sent a message, "Baby, come back soon." Xiao Qixi wanted to talk to his mother, but he was afraid of waking up Ao Daisai. After thinking about it, he whispered back in a very low voice, "Mom, I'm on a date." When the child grew up, this kind of thing would have to be told to the parents sooner or later, not to mention that he had made up his mind to be separated from his relatives for a short time, although he was very reluctant. However, they could live to be 60 or 70 years old, and they didn't have to worry about not having time to get together. Maybe in 5 or 10 years, they would accept Ao Daisai. Xiao Qixi had confidence in his fantasy. Is he cute? Ada didn't seem to be surprised at all. After all, she had a little brother who started flirting with handsome guys at the age of 5. Xiao Qixi was stunned for a moment and then laughed. Was Ada used to it? Or was it that killer whale mothers were all so valiant? However, it was a good thing that Ada didn't object to him messing around. He replied happily, "She's super cute." Because he was so happy, he forgot to whisper. The handsome black and white guy sleeping beside him moved, showing signs of waking up. Xiao Qixi didn't know what she was thinking. Her first reaction was to kiss Ao Daisai's face. "Baby, go to sleep. Go to sleep." Ao Daisai wanted to open her eyes, but she couldn't tell if she was really bewitched or just too tired. He just moved his body and leaned on Xiao Qixi more. This was a new move for Ao Daisai. Even when he was born, he had never relied on any killer whale like this. "Ada, which community is this child from?" Killer whales have many communities from different ancestors. Each community is more or less connected by marriage, but the male killer whales themselves don't seem to care about this relationship. Even if it's brother-in-law, it's okay if he's handsome. Xiao Qixi smiled bitterly. It seemed that this level would come sooner or later. He really didn't expect that even if he became a wild animal, he still couldn't escape being asked about his marriage by his parents. "Well, Mom, don't be angry." In order to pave the way for the next explosive news, Xiao Qixi first acted coquettishly and then revealed her bold choice of spouse. "The date I chose is a passing whale, but he is very good." Xiao Penghu spared no effort to praise Ao Daisai. "He will cross the sea to give me gifts and catch seals for me to eat. He and I are fated to meet in a previous life." The last sentence was probably a string of gibberish for the killer whale, but it didn't matter. Xiao Qixi just wanted to express herself, and as long as she said it, she felt comfortable. Ada knew about the passing whale and even had a bad impression of it, but she was not angry. She just expressed concern and worry. "Baby, you'd better stay away from him. He's dangerous." Mom, he's different. Xiao Qishi patiently explained to the mother killer whale. He's a good passing whale. He won't hurt me or my kind. If Ada meant that it was more dangerous to be with a passing whale, then it was true, because passing whales had more enemies. Moreover, wherever the transient whale went, the other beautiful creatures in the ocean would hide. If they stayed with him, they would definitely receive some unfair treatment. But what could she do? If she liked a killer whale, she had to accept all of him. Ada didn't persuade the little killer whale anymore. She gently exchanged a few words with her son and was ready to go to sleep. Night was indeed a good time to sleep. If it weren't for the fact that she had enough sleep during the day, Xiao Qishi would also like to sleep at night. Ao Daisai slept beside her until dawn. The sun shone on his straight dorsal fin, and she felt the slowly rising temperature. When a handsome killer whale woke up, he dived into the water and swam around, just like a Prince Charming who got up and took a shower first. Finally, he returned to the Antarctic little killer whale that he had just flirted with in the past 2 days and said in a lazy voice, "Little cutie." Xiao Qishi automatically interpreted it as a good morning, and she also replied, "Ao Daisai." Between killer whales, calling each other's nicknames was already a good performance of their relationship. If they gave each other a positive nickname, their relationship would be good plus cute was definitely a compliment. Did you wake up so early? Ao Daisai expressed this meaning to Xiao Qishi, seemingly concerned about him. I didn't sleep, Xiao Qishi said. Why? Ao Daisai showed a puzzled expression. Because I'm afraid you'll float away. Xiao Qishi felt that she was a little crazy when she said it. Would Ao Daisai believe her? No, Ao Daisai would believe her. He wasn't human, and he didn't have so many suspicions. Actually, I'm not sleepy. Xiao Qishi's voice carried a smile, and she seemed to be in a very good mood. It was probably because Ao Daisai had an IQ, but he didn't have the bad habits that he hated, and it was comfortable to get along with him. Well, I ate the seal. Are you hungry now? Last night, watching Ao Daisai was so boring that he accidentally ate a seal himself. He originally wanted to leave half for Ao Daisai, but who knew that it would be gone while eating? I'm not hungry. Ao Daisai looked at him deeply. You eat. Xiao Qishi blinked and slowly looked away. He couldn't believe that he still felt shy when facing the other party who had been with him for so many years. It must not be because he was thin-skinned. It must be because Ao Daisai's gaze was too much. However, Ao Daisai probably didn't think that he was too much. His true colors were that of an old pervert. Ao Daisai seemed to be in a better mood when he heard the little cutie use his own words to brush him off. However, he didn't do anything to Xiao Qishi. He just lazily flicked his tail. Did you sleep enough? Xiao Qishi calmed down and asked with concern. Ao Daisai's voice carried a smile. Then are you going back to find your companions now? Xiao Qishi moved her pectoral fins. Their pectoral fins were too close to each other, and he felt uncomfortable when they touched each other. However, it wasn't his first time in a relationship. What was there to be uncomfortable about? Perhaps it was because both parties' IQs were finally a little more equal, and he felt abnormally embarrassed. Wait a little longer. Ao Daisai turned sideways and leaned side by side with Xiao Qishi. Little cutie, do you want to be separated from me as soon as I wake up? No. Xiao Qishi murmured, no. Yeah. Ao Daisai made a bubble and didn't do anything. The two killer whales floated quietly on the water, and he was happy. Ao Daisai. Xiao Qishi stuck her head out, spat out a cloud of mist, and floated down again, as if she had a sense of security and didn't make him too uncomfortable. Now, he decided to tell the other party his thoughts. Hey, do you want me to go with you? Ao Daisai was silent for a moment, as if thinking about the little cutie's question. There was no doubt that he wanted the other party to go with him. His hesitation must be due to other reasons. After a while, he expressed slightly obscurely, If you want, will you go with me? Xiao Qishi was stunned. What a smart and cunning killer whale. How could he kick the ball? Thinking about it carefully, Xiao Qishi felt her scalp tingle. According to Ao Daisai's somewhat unskilled expression, It was obvious that this was the first time the other party had organized such obscure language, but the other party did it. Why did he ask him this question? Was it because his heart was full of uncertainty, or was it because of something else? For a time, even intelligent human beings found it difficult to analyze the truth, even if he was now wearing the skin of a killer whale. I will. Xiao Qixi exhaled and found that even if they could communicate, they were still separated by species. Isn't this more refreshing than falling in love with humans? Then come with me. A.O. Daisai immediately wrote the end of the conversation between them, as if he liked the conclusion. Okay. Sensing the other party's joy, Xiao Qixi's eyes narrowed into crescents. However, she still had some matters to attend to. You can do whatever you want for today and tomorrow. I'm way back to say goodbye to my family. Xiao Qixi didn't know if the other party could understand, so he said whatever he thought of. By the way, are you going to live with the two of us, or continue to live with your companions? It was very exciting to think about drifting across the sea with a group of flashy passing whales. This was a better choice. After all, a lone killer whale was still not cool enough. Even if A.O. Daisai was very strong, some hunting tactics still required teamwork. If Xiao Qixi guessed correctly, the seal that A.O. Daisai gave him yesterday was caught alone, right? When you encounter bad luck, it is really not too much to spend a whole day. A.O. Daisai may have never encountered such a complicated problem. He did whatever he wanted to do, and he would not explore it or be affected by the outside world. But since he had little cutie, he had changed. He would listen carefully to the other party's voice and distinguish the meaning that the other party expressed to him. It seemed that as long as it was an instruction from this Antarctic milk whale, he would not hesitate to complete it. This was not because he was under the control of the other party, nor was it because his head was caught in the big mussel shell. He just couldn't help but want to make the other party happy. Yes, he wanted to coax him. The killer whale, who was one of the smartest in the whole ocean, still did not seem smart enough in front of little cutie. He pretended to understand everything and responded casually. Okay, then I'll go back. Wait for me for 2 days. Xiao Qixi gently instructed her boyfriend before reluctantly looking at the cool and domineering man for a few more times before turning around to leave. A.O. Daisai understood and waited. Although he wanted to follow her, he was afraid that little cutie would be unhappy. And then wait. When the other party came back, she would be his. This concept was deeply implanted in A.O. Daisai's mind. Xiao Qixi returned to her mother and uncle. As soon as she saw these fat figures, she began to feel guilty and reluctant. The two little killer whales no longer stayed on their mother's back for a long time. The two lively and playful little ones liked to play with Xiao Qixi. When they saw their brother coming back, they swam to him and played with him. Her brother, who had been out at night recently, was very guilty. He quickly abandoned all distracting thoughts and played with the two little killer whales. The two little killer whales fiercely chased after their big brother's tail and bit each other's pectoral fins. After all, this was the only place they could bite. Xiao Qixi, kill whales. Pain, pain, pain. No matter how young the killer whales were, they all had a row of sharp teeth. Okay. They were no different from the teeth of the great white shark. It really hurt to bite them. Woo-woo. Xiao Qixi was helpless. The tempers of the two naughty children were like tigers and bears. They were not like him at all when he was a child. He was so cute when he was a child, a gentle little angel. This was also the reason why his uncle preferred to take him, but avoided his younger brothers and sisters a little, who would want to be chased and bitten all day, and their tails would be bitten bald. Being chased by his younger brothers and sisters, Xiao Qixi could only use his trump card and hide beside the mother killer whale. Mom. The mother killer whale protected her precious son and separated the 3 children with her huge body. However, the little killer whale was so flexible that it drilled under her tail all of a sudden. Uncle! Xiao Qixi turned to his uncle. Swimming under his uncle's pectoral fins, the 2 little killer whales finally gave up surrounding him because they were afraid of him. Xiao Qixi breathed a sigh of relief and rubbed his uncle's back. Right, he remembered that he had something to say to his uncle. Uncle, are you sleeping? Can you talk to me for a while? A cloud of water vapor sprayed from his uncle's head, indicating that he was still awake. Xiao Qishi pondered for a moment. Uncle, have you ever thought about leaving the group to live outside? No. His uncle thought for a while and answered. His life now was very complete. If he wanted to go on a date, he would go out on a date. If he was hungry, he would come back to hunt and eat with his relatives. Occasionally, he would help take care of the young whales. If Xiao Qishi blinked. I want to go out and live, can I? His uncle seemed to have never faced a similar question, but he was also a smarter killer whale and quickly answered, Why do you want to go out? Xiao Qishi, I want to become a stronger killer whale. Of course, this was a grand reason. I don't understand. His uncle was more honest than Xiao Daisai. If he didn't understand, he would just say that he didn't understand. It was understandable that he didn't understand things like ideals. Xiao Qishi thought that if he understood, humans wouldn't be able to survive. So, can I go out? You could do whatever you want. Uncle supports you. His uncle finally answered the question properly this time. It was an answer that warmed Xiao Qishi's heart. Thank you, Uncle. You are the cutest. You are cuter. His uncle immediately said that this wasn't commercial flattery. He really thought so, which was why he said that. Why did Antarctic killer whales like to stay with their relatives? Xiao Qishi took the opportunity to do some research. Uncle, why do you like to stay at home? Because it's comfortable, his uncle said. Well, this answer was very convincing. From this answer, it was not difficult for Xiao Qishi to infer that he might be a silly child in his uncle's eyes. Otherwise, why would he give up a comfortable family life and choose to go out and wander? After talking to his uncle about leaving home, Xiao Qishi breathed a sigh of relief. At least he got some support. He planned to tell the other family members tomorrow, but his uncle had a big mouth. He spilled out his secret on the spot. Uncle, baby wants to go out and become a wandering whale. Wishy-washy, huh? This was equivalent to a public execution at home. All the killer whales of the same species in the ocean knew that a killer whale called Baby wanted to go out and become a wandering whale. The World Channel was full of discussion. The Antarctic killer whales, who liked to gossip, had something to talk about again. Within a minute, Xiao Qishi heard several killer whales doubting his IQ. Xiao Penghu was embarrassed. There was nothing wrong with his IQ. It was obvious that this group of killer whales were worrying for nothing. His mother, Ada, was concerned. Are you uncomfortable at home? Are you unhappy? No. Xiao Qishi answered seriously. It's very good and comfortable at home. I'm also very happy, but I want to go out and have a look. I'll come back in the future. Ada seemed to understand something. After some thought, she didn't ask her son to stay. Mom knows. Thank you, Mom. Xiao Qishi hugged his mother and the other family members like when he was a child. This family of fat tigers had formed a circle intimately to express their reluctance, because one of the young fat tigers was leaving home. However, even if they weren't together, family members could maintain close contact with each other because they could make overseas calls at any time and understand what was happening to each other through sound waves. Sometimes, even if they didn't want to know, they would be forced to know. After all, not every killer whale paid attention to privacy. Xiao Qishi was, of course, a fat tiger who paid attention to privacy. When he and Ao Daisai were talking about love, they liked to use whispers. Now, he was considering whether he should broadcast live in the ocean in the future so that his relatives could keep track of his situation and know that he was doing well on the other side of the ocean. Of course, it still took courage to make it public. After all, Ao Daisai was so flirtatious. Really, it kept calling it little cutie. Speaking of which, he had never heard of such a killer whale in the ocean. Thinking of this, there was no news of that killer whale again. An unqualified boyfriend. Xiao Qishi couldn't help but tease the other party playfully. Ao Daisai, who was hungry and hunting, froze. It seemed to be considering whether to respond or to catch the prey first. If it responded in seconds, it might scare away the prey. If it didn't respond in seconds, the little milk whale might be unhappy. Yes, compared with love, prey seemed to be not worth mentioning. The powerful killer whale chose love. Nothing. See you tomorrow. Xiao Qishi felt sweet in her heart. The prey really ran away, but Ao Daisai was in a good mood and was not depressed because of missing a prey. He decisively gave up on hunting and turned around to head to the next hunting location. That was also very close. The reason why killer whales swam so fast was that they relied on their tail fins, which were more powerful than the propellers of fishing boats, and their smooth body lines. The seawater couldn't stay on the smooth skin of killer whales. In addition, the special organ structure in their body caused them to have a relatively small proportion of water. Most of the time, the seawater was pushing them. It was equivalent to the principle of a rubber ball being pressed in the water. Once you let go, it would bounce up. On the night of the date, both of their tails were sore. It could be seen how powerful the friction was. Xiao Qishiba. On the last night, before parting with relatives, Xiao Qishi's pectoral fins were attached to everyone, and she had a good sleep. When the sun rose, he was about to set off. The killer whale, who was about to sail away, was reluctant to say goodbye to his family members. They seemed to be sending him off. After swimming with him for a while, they finally stopped escorting him. For the killer whales, this was just a small farewell. They could get together again at any time. In the long years, sometimes parting makes reunion more precious. Xiao Qishi left her relatives and came out to inform her boyfriend who had been waiting for her for a long time. Ao Daisai, I'm out. Her boyfriend had just caught a tuna. Maybe he wanted to catch the little cutie's favorite seal, but time was limited and he didn't encounter any seals. Hearing Xiao Qishi's call, the handsome man in black and white quickly swam back with the tuna in his mouth and came to the agreed place to meet his handsome brother. The tuna is very big in the eyes of human beings, but it looks very small in the mouth of the killer whale. It was even pierced by the killer whale's fangs and was dead. Ao Daisai gave the fish to Xiao Qishi and didn't say anything. He seemed unhappy that he didn't catch a seal. It doesn't matter. Xiao Qishi smiled and accepted the tuna. Thank you, Ao Daisai. This kind of fish is also very delicious. I've been wanting to try it for a long time. I'll catch more for you in the future. Ao Daisai was comforted, and the lights in his world immediately lit up. At this moment, he was cool and handsome. Little cutie, I like you. From today onwards, this little milk whale is his, and he will take care of her. Come with your brother. I'll take you on a trip. The author has something to say. Ao Daisai, I want to take you to romantic Turkey and then go to the North Pole and Paris together. Xiongzi. Okay. I'll follow you wherever you go. Happy New Year's Eve, everyone. In the new year, money is rolling in and everything is going well. I love you all, carrot, oh carrot. Chapter 92. It was Xiao Qishi's first trip out, and everything around him was a new experience, even though he was used to seeing these sights. In the blue sea, schools of sardines scuttled around, and there were also many dolphins chasing after the sardines. Suddenly, the calm sea surface was as noisy as a market. It was really an eye-opener. Xiao Qishi thought that the Antarctic killer whales were quite talkative when they got together, but he didn't expect the dolphins to be even noisier. He and Ao Daisai were much quieter. They didn't talk when the other party was busy traveling, as if this was their usual self. However, Ao Daisai would pay attention to him. Did he keep up? How was he swimming? Was he hungry on the way? Ao Daisai would consider these things. Xiao Qishi's imagination ran wild. Even compared to a human boyfriend, he was not inferior. After only an hour of traveling, Xiao Qishi was of course not hungry. He asked Ao Daisai, "Are you hungry?" "I'm not hungry." Upon hearing this, Ao Daisai continued to lead the way in front. His swimming posture was very strong and swift. He didn't know if he was deliberately showing off in front of his favorite killer whale brother, or if he was just like that. Xiao Qishi observed along the way, and the situation seemed to be as he had imagined. There were almost no other marine animals approaching them wherever they went. They seemed to be afraid that Ao Daisai would eat them. It could only be said that the aura was really important. In the past, when Xiao Qishi drifted alone in the ocean, he didn't see such an effect. After swimming for a while, they came to a wider and empty sea area. The Cologne Islands were no longer visible. They had really left home. Xiao Qi would keep chatting with his relatives when he went out. He was not used to the sudden silence, and the feelings of parting still lingered in his heart. He wanted to say something. Ao Daisai. Otis instantly replied to Zhang Heng's cute request. Are we going to meet up with your companions now? Xiao Qi said. Yes, Ao Daisai replied. Oh, do they know that I'm coming? Xiao Qi felt that he should inform them. After all, he did not dare to bring Ao Daisai home rashly. But thinking about it, he and Ao Daisai were very different in nature. His family members would take care of a passing whale, but a passing whale would not take an Antarctic killer whale seriously. The clown was actually me. Xiao Qi blushed with shame for thinking too much. I don't know. Ao Daisai didn't seem to understand why little cutie would ask such a question. He blinked and continued to lead her on their journey. Forget it, forget it. Xiao Qi did not expect her boyfriend to care about etiquette when he grew up with a bunch of barbaric people. So be it, he thought uneasily. The distance between the two sides was quite far. Obviously, when they were in Ao Daisai with the little killer whale, the group of cool guys were not idle. They were wandering around. Alaska, Bering Sea. In July, the Bering Sea had just had a thunderstorm in the morning, and the turbulent dark blue waves churned wantonly, making the cargo ships that came and went fearful. However, humans were obviously accustomed to the fury of the Bering Sea, and only large ships dared to approach it during thunderstorms. The group of cool guys shuttling in the turbulent sea were obviously not afraid of the weather. Except for being unable to sleep for the time being, the turbulent sea seemed to have no effect on them. They even took advantage of the harsh environment to launch a hunt. The unlucky guy who was targeted, like the killer whale, seemed to want to take the opportunity to get some food. It was the shark that everyone was afraid of. The great white shark, which ate all kinds of big fish, would occasionally attack small dolphins. It felt that today was its lucky day. The harbor dolphin that fled in front of its mouth was immediately exhausted. Although this kind of gray and fat dolphin did not have much meat, it was relatively easy to catch, and even killer whales often attacked them. But today was obviously not the shark's lucky day. When both kinds of food could be eaten, the group of cool guys chose to chase the great white shark. The great white shark? At this moment, it and the harbor dolphin were no longer in a relationship of hunting and being hunted, but in an equal relationship. Because in front of the killer whale, they were all food. The harbor dolphin, who was almost bitten in the tail, was also stunned when it saw the great white shark run away. Then a group of black and white giants rushed past it, seeming to chase the great white shark. If the harbor dolphin could speak, it would definitely say, "The heavens have a good reincarnation, who will be spared by the heavens." But he was also one of the killer whale's food, and it was more important to gloat and escape. Cool guys see, this shark is quite fat. They seemed to be chasing the shark fiercely, but they still had time to chat, which came from their contempt for sharks. Sharks did not have an echolocation system. It was a fish, not a mammal. Even if the killer whale chased the shark while jumping, it would not let the shark know what they were planning. Cool guy B. Unfortunately, it can only eat liver. Cool guy A. Line up, charge. 3 killer whales were responsible for surrounding the great white shark's path and creating a lot of bubbles to block the other party's line of sight, making the hunting battlefield like a maze. The remaining 2 killer whales attacked the shark unexpectedly. After 2 times, it was enough to make the shark dizzy. They didn't use their teeth because they took good care of their teeth. Moreover, the shark's meat smelled of urine, so it was more cost-effective to kill it and tear its stomach open quickly. This group of hooligans easily took down a great white shark and then ate the great white shark's liver. Cool guy E. Fish liver is delicious. Their meal made many local killer whales look sideways because in the world, only passing whales would attack the great white shark. This group of hooligans was making waves here. After they left, the great white shark might attack the killer whale alone. As the saying goes, rabbits will bite people when they are anxious, not to mention that the teeth of the great white shark are much more terrifying than those of rabbits. On the other side, Xiao Qi and Ao Daisai came to the edge of the Caribbean Sea, which was called the Gulf of Venezuela. Hearing that Ao Daisai's partner was eating fish liver, Xiao Qishi was curious. They hunted a great white shark? Ao Daisai, who was next to him, said, yes. Thinking for a moment, Ao Daisai swam much slower. Do you want to eat? Xiao Qishi hadn't eaten today and was indeed hungry, but he didn't want to eat a great white shark. Even Ao Daisai would struggle to kill a great white shark alone. We don't want to eat great white sharks. I want to eat flatfish. Ao Daisai was silent, as if wondering what a flatfish was. He probably hadn't eaten such an ugly and small thing in his life. In the sand of the shallow sea, flatfish weren't small, and there were also large species. Xiao Qishi had a selfish motive for suggesting flatfish. When he floated to breathe, he recognized that this seemed to be the Caribbean Sea. The shallow waters of the Caribbean Sea were too beautiful, with all kinds of corals and colorful marine animals. The delicate little milk whale, who wasn't used to traveling all the time, started to get distracted. No, he just wanted to catch some wind. Who didn't like to drill in and out of beautiful corals and schools of fish? Sometimes, Xiao Qishi wished that he was smaller. After all, some of the holes looked fun, but he couldn't drill through them. Don't you want to eat shark liver? Ao Daisai thought for a while and still didn't know what a flatfish was, but he knew shark liver very well. It's delicious. For the little cutie who hadn't eaten shark liver before. The group of cool guys who had just eaten and were burping. Yes, it's delicious. Xiao Qishi, if you don't want to eat now, why don't you eat the flatfish first? The surrounding great white sharks. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Okay. Ao Daisai didn't insist. Since the other party said no, he would go to the shallow sea as the other party wanted. Coral reefs are present in many sea areas, but not every sea area's coral reefs are atmospheric and magnificent enough to support such a behemoth as a killer whale to travel through them. The coral reefs here were fine. It just so happened that the weather was good today and the sun shone brightly. The candy-colored tentacles of the anemone floated left and right in the sea, and small fish shuttled back and forth, eating the microbes on the anemone, but at the same time, it was also the anemone's food. Because of the arrival of the killer whale, the small fish swam away in fright and escaped. Xiao Qishi didn't want to eat flatfish at all. After he came here, he drilled into every hole he saw. He had the pleasure of exploring. Occasionally, he would see octopuses, lobsters, and crabs inside. Playing around, the killer whale's big grape-like eyes saw a group of shrimps. Xiao Qishi calculated the location of their journey and came to a flat area. He lay there quietly and opened his mouth. A group of shrimps came out of the hole and ran into his mouth. Then he won't be polite. Yulashanda ate a mouthful of shrimps happily and then inadvertently heard Ao Daisai talking to his companions. Do you know flatfish? Cool, Brother C, I know. It looks like a flattened stone. Xiao Qishi thought. Dude, your vocabulary is quite rich. Ao Daisai asked again. Is it delicious? Cool, Brother C. I swallowed it in one gulp. I don't know the taste. Hide in the sand. Ao Daisai remembered this sentence. He rummaged in the sand and soon found this fish that was not good at escaping. The big killer whale picked up the flatfish and looked for the little milk whale that he had abducted in the magnificent atmosphere of the coral reef. Although Ao Daisai had no attachment to his family, he seemed to understand that a young killer whale would be homesick. He was doing his best to take care of the other party and let the other party find a sense of home in him. Is it this? Ao Daisai's voice was vague, and he came to the little cutie with a little anxiety. Well, yes. Xiao Qishi had eaten flatfish when he was a human. It tasted good, and he felt that it would not be bad to eat it with a killer whale sense of taste. In order to taste the taste, Xiao Qishi always used his own teeth. When he was at home, he was often nagged by the elders. Now, that he was out, did it mean that he could be presumptuous? No, there were no elders nagging here, but there was a boyfriend nagging. Don't use your teeth. Xiao Qishi stiffened slightly, and then obediently swallowed the flatfish. Yeah, as if to reward him for being obedient, Ao Daisai rubbed his mouth intimately, and then turned to search for food. Perhaps in Ao Daisai's eyes, this kind of thing was not food, but just a small snack. If he wanted to fill his stomach, he still had to eat a big meal, such as shark liver. While he was busy, Xiao Qixi had plenty of time to play and relax. Ao Daisai was gentle and patient with him, which washed away his uneasiness about leaving home. The ocean was too vast. He used to think that only by living in groups could he resist the awe and fear of the ocean. However, Ao Daisai gave Xiao Qixi a full sense of security, so that even if he stayed alone in the unfamiliar sea, he did not feel nervous. The tyrant of the sea, who doted on the little milk whale, went back and forth to find 3 or 4 flatfish for his baby. This is just a small snack. Let's go eat a big meal. Okay, Xiao Qixi had played enough here. After drilling many holes, actually very big gaps, he happily followed Ao Daisai's figure. What do you want to eat? What do you want to eat? Ao Daisai asked. Not long after, she changed her mind. I'll decide. Xiao Qixi, what do you mean? I'm asking you what you mean. It was a wonderful feeling, as if a huge dining table was placed in front of him, and he could choose whatever he wanted to eat, ensuring freshness and quality. Hearing the young couple discussing what to eat, some killer whales in the group of cool guys interrupted. Eat dolphins. Obviously, they had also noticed the dolphin that had escaped, but they had given up on it in order to chase the great white shark. Cool guy D. The dolphin is too small, not enough to fill the gaps between our teeth. They were still discussing the harbor dolphin. Cool guy E. Ao Daisai and the Antarctic little killer whale are enough to eat. Xiao Qixi made a sound of surprise and did not say anything, so they all knew that he was with Ao Daisai. Cool guy C. Where's the Antarctic little killer whale? Cool guy B. Didn't you hear? It's beside Ao Daisai. Everyone was silent for a long time. Cool guy C. Ao Daisai, will you still be with us? Perhaps in their hearts, Ao Daisai would leave them if she had the Antarctic little killer whale. After all, Ao Daisai had been appearing and disappearing like a ghost recently. Cool guy C felt that he had not been beaten for a long time. Ao Daisai, who usually did not talk much, finally responded. On the way to meet up. After getting the answer, this topic was skipped. Xiao Qixi did not quite understand the killer whale's thinking, and they began to discuss the next question. The spearhead was actually aimed at him. Cool guy E. Is the Antarctic little killer whale sleeping? Ao Daisai. No, he's watching me hunt. Cool guy C. The Antarctic little killer whale does not hunt. This was a statement, an affirmative sentence. Xiao Qixi fainted. Where did this killer whale come to this conclusion? Ao Daisai. Well, he can catch fish and shrimp. Cool guy group. Oh, there was also a chain of contempt between killer whale species. The killer whale that hunted sea beasts looked down on the killer whale that hunted fish. Although Xiao Qixi did not feel despised and even felt loved, he had to clarify some facts for his species. Antarctic killer whales do not only fish. As for more, there was no need to say. It seemed that hunting young whales was not a glorious deed. Cool guy group. He spoke. Did he say to us? No one cared about the content of Xiao Qixi's words, because it was not important. Their killer whales did not even mind raising their disabled companions. Not to mention that the Antarctic little killer whale could catch fish and shrimp. Listening to them, Xiao Qixi blinked and asked incredulously, Do you treat me as a companion? The cool guy group was quiet for a moment and answered the Antarctic little killer whale's question seriously. Then they began to discuss other issues. This time, the problem had nothing to do with Xiao Qixi. Why? Xiao Qixi was still immersed in it and asked doubtfully, I am not your kind. Cool guy C. Ao Daisai is not our kind either. Xiao Qixi heard this and remembered that Ao Daisai's appearance was indeed different from the other 5 killer whales. Ao Daisai, where are you from? The cool guy group pricked up their ears and was also very curious. Yes, Ao Daisai, where are you from? Xiao Qixi laughed to death. No way. This group of hooligans had been together for so long, but they didn't know where Ao Daisai came from. They didn't know. Ao Daisai usually didn't talk about these things about himself. Whether he answered questions or not depended on his mood. For example, now, he didn't have time to answer. Ao Daisai's whole mind was on the prey. Under Qiao Qishi's eyes, he didn't worry that the other party would be angry if he didn't receive his instant reply. Maybe this was the system's pig trotter. Because he didn't know what to eat, and his companion who interrupted mentioned dolphins, Ao Daisai stared at dolphins. When he successfully caught a small dolphin and narrowed his eyes, he remembered that there seemed to be a question that he hadn't answered. "What did you just ask me?" Ao Daisai whispered to little cutie. "Where are you from?" Qiao Qishi was curious. "The Atlantic Ocean," Ao Daisai said. They were whispering, and Ao Daisai's companions still didn't know where he came from. In their eyes, Ao Daisai was as mysterious as ever. If other companions had left the group for so long and even brought back a killer whale that couldn't take care of itself to eat and drink, they would be angry. But it was Ao Daisai. As long as Ao Daisai wasn't angry, everything was fine. The author has something to say. On the first day of a new year, I wish everyone a happy new year. Chapter 93. Hearing the answer of the Atlantic Ocean, Qiao Qishi was visibly stunned. If South America was their starting point, the Atlantic Ocean was on their right. In other words, they were now passing by Ao Daisai's hometown. "Do your people still live in the Atlantic Ocean?" Qiao Qishi followed the topic and asked. He hoped to know more about Ao Daisai, who was a killer whale. "Well, I seem to have asked a silly question. Do you still have contact with them?" As for why Ao Daisai, as an Atlantic killer whale, would hang out with passing whales, Qiao Qishi didn't think it was surprising. For example, he himself was a ready-made example. "I don't know, no." Ao Daisai's answer was a little cold, which meant that he didn't keep in touch with his own people. Qiao Qishi. "Oh, maybe it would be unbelievable if it happened to other killer whales, but this was Ao Daisai." After thinking about it, Qiao Qishi comforted him again. "It doesn't matter, as long as they are still living in the ocean and living a healthy and happy life." Ao Daisai tilted his head, showing that he didn't understand, so he didn't say anything about this topic. "Come and eat the dolphin." He flapped his pectoral fins a little closer and put the dolphin in front of Qiao Qishi. The dolphin, which hadn't died yet, was suddenly full of desire to live and jumped out. Qiao Qishi. Qiao Qishi was still in deep thought and didn't notice Ao Daisai's action of putting the dolphin in front of him. Now that the dolphin had run away, he opened his mouth stupidly, revealing a row of snow-white sharp teeth. In the first second that the dolphin ran away, Ao Daisai encouraged the little milk whale with his eyes to catch it. After all, it was an injured dolphin, so it was quite easy to catch it. However, wasn't Qiao Qishi stuck? She didn't react in time and missed the opportunity. After all, she had always eaten what was fed to her in the past. Who would have thought that the food would run away? In just 3 seconds, the dolphin had almost run away. At this time, Ao Daisai did not seem to expect the little milk whale to chase after the dolphin. He moved his tail and chased after the dolphin, handsomely bringing it back. This time, he bit the bullet and said, "Eat it." The black and white giant looked at Qiao Qishi with an incredibly warm gaze, but he was complaining to his companions behind his back, "Antarctic little killer whales really don't know how to hunt." Cool guy group. Thank you, Ao Daisai. Qiao Qishi felt his face heat up. Yes, he did not perform well just now. If he could do it again, he would definitely catch up. However, it was too late to say anything now. He could only wait until the next time to prove his strength. Qiao Qishi came out to explore with Ao Daisai and did not want to be a burden to the other party. Ao Daisai saw that the little milk whale was struggling to eat, so he used his sharp teeth to split the dolphin in half. The incision was as perfect as a scalpel, proving that the killer whale's teeth were actually quite sharp. "Is the dolphin delicious?" The giant monster watched from the side. Qiao Qishi answered. He liked to imagine, and he felt that Ao Daisai's tone was probably a bit like a boyfriend in the city asking his girlfriend from the mountains, "What do you think of the city?" Of course, he knew that this was just his imagination. What kind of bad intentions could a killer whale have? "Aren't you going to eat?" Qiao Qishi consciously left half of the food for the other party. "I'll give it all to you." Ao Daisai lazily expressed that it did not care what the consequences of doing this would be. Anyway, it wanted to do this. As a result, all the whales in the world knew that an infatuated guy named Ao Daisai fed all the dolphins he caught to a small Antarctic killer whale. However, no killer whale thought that Ao Daisai was raising children for other killer whales. They were not the same kind, nor were they of the same race. They could only be dating partners. It seemed that no matter how young they were, killer whales did not care about age, as long as they were comfortable. Chow Penghu, who was thought to be unable to take care of himself, was fooled by Ao Daisai. He looked at the small piece of food left and said that he really could not eat anymore. "Oh, my stomach is so full." In fact, he wanted to leave some food for the other party, but animals were all one-track minded. If he did not play some tricks, the other party might not accept it. Ao Daisai was indeed the kind of personality that Xiao Qixi imagined. He could not be forced, he could only be tricked. He accepted little Cutie's trick, but it did not mean that he was stupid. Before the sensitive Ao Daisai accepted the trick, his eyes swept across little Cutie's full and round abdomen. After confirming that the other party was full, he swallowed the other party's leftover food full of love and tolerance, and it was not enough. After a short rest, they continued to travel at a leisurely pace. The Caribbean Sea was a bit like the inland sea. The overall shape was oval, the surrounding shores were clear and beautiful, but in the middle was a very deep trench. It was the famous Bartlett Trench, located between the Cayman Islands and Jamaica, so it was also called the Cayman Trench. Its depth reached more than 7,000 meters. The deep sea was always scary, but the most frightening thing in the trench was obviously not just its depth. When Xiao Qixi swam over the trench, he was very afraid that the hot liquid would come up from below and burn his belly. Of course, he knew that this was impossible. Thinking like this was purely persecutory paranoia. With the killer whale's ability to hold his breath, he would have to float up before diving to 100 meters. How could he touch the underwater hot liquid 7 kilometers below? Despite this, Xiao Qixi still tried to swim close to the surface of the water, unlike Ao Daisai, who dived his whole body into the water. Large and small bubbles came out of his breathing mouth, just like the bubbles in the square. He looked very cute. When he found that Xiao Qixi was swimming slowly, he would occasionally turn around very quickly and swim behind Xiao Qixi again. Feeling a huge monster behind him spurring him, Xiao Qixi could no longer be lazy. "Hey, okay, I'll speed up. It's okay." Ao Daisai's reassurance sounded very distracted, but it had a sense of strength. The fat Antarctic killer whale relaxed at once, but it was embarrassing to stick to him like this. Other killer whales would think that they were on a date if they looked over. The Caribbean Sea is rich in resources, and many killer whales live here. They encountered many killer whales with dorsal fin characteristics similar to Ao Daisai on the surface of the sea. Because he felt like it, Xiao Qixi took a few more glances. Maybe the other party was the same species as Ao Daisai. Ao Daisai didn't seem to let him look. He frequently urged him to swim faster, and even his voice became serious. Well, Xiao Qixi gave up the right to observe other killer whales, and Ao Daisai returned to his comfortable appearance and no longer gave him a sense of urgency. The sea was really big, and it was dark before they swam far. They had to find a place to sleep. The waves on the shore of the mainland were a little big, and the wind was quite strong. Obviously, it was not the first choice for sleeping. The shore of the island was the best choice. The scenery here was beautiful, and the ears were quiet. Occasionally, there were seabirds singing a few times. Xiao Qixi liked it here. He found a deep and suitable position and was about to say good night to Ao Daisai. The other party's body rubbed against him, and his tail swept across his abdomen, full of inadvertent hints. Xiao Qixi's entire body shivered. Following the logic of giving him a taste of his own medicine, she swung her tail across the other party's abdomen. The consequence of this was that Ao Daisai's interest was completely aroused, and the other party also flirted with him. Although it was all scratching his itch through the boot, It unexpectedly made him enjoy this kind of flirtatious interaction, but he forgot that there was a possibility of misfire, especially when the other party did not have human rationality. The tall and handsome man in black and white kept pushing Xiao Qixi towards the shore with his body, as though he was pushing a swaying boat. But in reality, it was not their intention to go ashore. They were just having fun. If we go up again, we'll be stranded, brother. Xiao Qixi could not help but cry. He had not practiced the technique of stranding, and it would be bad if he could not come back after going up. Ao Daisai seemed to feel the little cutie's worry. He quickly turned around and changed positions with the other party. This way, we won't be stranded, but you'll be stranded. Xiao Qixi mumbled and backstroked towards the deep sea. If he wanted to play, he would play in the direction of the deep sea. Sob, 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 what was he thinking? Wasn't he obviously seducing Ao Daisai? Just as he was about to end this childish play, Ao Daisai's body covered him and pushed him into the deep sea. A string of beautiful bubbles appeared behind Ao Daisai. They went deeper and deeper, and only came up after 20 minutes of oxygen. Xiao Qixi had played with Ao Daisai before he went to bed. In the past, when he was a polar bear, when he was a lion, and when he was a lion. But none of them were as embarrassing as this time in the ocean. When he surfaced, he did not even know how to swing his tail. Perhaps it was because of the lack of oxygen in his brain. Xiao Qixi felt sleepy listening to his own heartbeat. So he cleared his head and prepared for a good sleep. Ao Daisai, I'm so sleepy. Go to sleep. Ao Daisai kissed his little cutie's chubby cheek and said, I'll protect you. Their pectoral fins touched each other. Like most killer whales who like to sleep in a pile, this was a sign of solidarity and friendship. But Xiao Qixi knew that Ao Daisai did not just have solidarity and friendship for him. That was not worthy of Ao Daisai's kindness to him. Xiao Qixi thought wildly that the other party must have done too many bad things in one of his lifetimes, and now he could not forget him. Maybe he had abandoned the cute him and was paying back the debt in these lifetimes. It was said that the imagination before going to sleep was richer than the planets in the universe. Xiao Qixi admitted this. After a dreamless night, Yelishanda woke up to the sound of the waves and found that Ao Daisai had blocked him in to prevent the waves from disturbing him. When he woke up, the other party also woke up. In the morning, they ate something around, swam out of the Caribbean Sea, returned to the vast Pacific Ocean, and went all the way north to the coast of North America, and then the Bering Sea. If they continued to go forward from the Bering Sea, they would almost reach the North Pole. Xiao Qixi had a deep impression of the North Pole, but he did not know if this world was still the same world as the one he had lived in before. Ao Daisai, have you ever been to the North Pole? Xiao Qixi asked the passing whale beside him, who had traveled extensively. Perhaps talking about these issues could refresh the other party's memory. No, Ao Daisai replied. The northernmost place he had been to was the Bering Sea. Why didn't you go to the North Pole? Xiao Qixi was surprised. He thought that the other party had traveled to the four oceans. There's not enough food. Ao Daisai's answer was very killer whale. Xiao Qixi did not know whether to laugh or cry, but he had to admit that compared to the other seas, the North Pole had the least food. Even the seals were not as abundant as the South Pole. Then why did your friends go to the Bering Sea? Xiao Qixi had deep feelings for the North Pole, but the North Pole was actually ignored. He muttered with slight dissatisfaction. Ao Daisai did not seem to be able to answer this question. He was silent for a long time. Challenging Ao Daisai's ability to express himself gave Xiao Qixi a strange sense of pleasure. Perhaps this was called a dimensionality reduction. Xiao Qixi was secretly pleased, and he whined coquettishly, Ao Daisai, I want to go to the North Pole to play. Since they were already in the Bering Sea, why not go to the North Pole? Ao Daisai's eyes widened slightly. No matter how hard he tried, his eyes were still that big. He did not seem to expect that the little milk whale, who had only been with him for a short time, would act coquettishly towards him. However, his silence was misunderstood by Xiao Qixi. He thought that he was unwilling to go, or that he had concerns. What concerns? His own companions? Well, Xiao Qi continued to act coquettishly. You can ask your companions. There are belugas to eat in the North Pole in summer. There were also various sea beasts, such as walruses and sea lions on the shore. It was said that there was less food, but it was relatively less. It did not affect the killer whales from traveling there. Ao Daisai, who was annoyed by the little milk whale, quickly agreed. Okay, I'll ask. They continued to the Bering Sea and swam for a while. Ao Daisai seemed to have finally recovered from the cute sugar-coated bomb. He hesitated to start a conversation, which was very rare for him. Have you been to the North Pole? I heard about it. Xiao Qi was calm. Antarctic killer whales don't go to the North Pole. Ao Daisai was very smart. He actually found a bug. Passing whales will go. Xiao Qi blocked whatever came his way. At the same time, he was secretly shocked. Ao Daisai was so smart. It seemed that he had to be careful with his tricks in the future. This topic ended with Ao Daisai's failure to explore. Xiao Qi snickered. He felt that he was riding on Ao Daisai's head. He ate 2 more mouthfuls of meat at night. In the Bering Sea, Cool Guy group, Great Sage, and the group members were chatting impatiently. Will they arrive? Cool Guy C. They're swimming so slowly. It's going to be cold here. Cool Guy D. Does the cold make a difference to you? Cool Guy C seemed to be choked and quieted down. However, after a while, he muttered loudly, they're swimming so slowly. Cool Guy A. You can contact Ao Daisai and ask him to swim faster. Xiao Qi. Was this group of killer whales serious? If they really wanted to whisper, they shouldn't be so loud. They all heard it now. Everyone was quiet for a moment. It seemed that they didn't want to accept the group leader's suggestion, but they couldn't stop themselves from wanting to talk. Cool Guy E. Ao Daisai swims very fast. Because of this sentence, the group began to bustle again. Cool Guy B. Yes. They lined up to express their approval, and then began to flatter Ao Daisai. For example, Ao Daisai was so good at hunting that he would teach them the stranding tactic. Another example was that Ao Daisai was very good when he was still young. As they bragged, they began to complain. They mainly complained that Ao Daisai was fierce, saying that Ao Daisai was not as fierce as he was now when he was young. Xiao Qi listened to their chat with great interest. From these contents, he learned about Ao Daisai's different past, which he didn't have time to participate in. Cool Guy C. Antarctic killer whales swim slowly. This sentence was suddenly interspersed in the lively discussion, making the whole group quiet down as if digesting the news. But after waiting for a while, no other killer whale responded to this message. Xiao Qi raised his eyebrows. Of course, he didn't have eyebrows. He just wanted to do this subconsciously. Haha, he was very curious. Would killer whales be embarrassed? Would killer whales know that he was speaking ill of them behind their backs? Well, and how should he deal with it if he was spoken ill of? What complicated relationship between whales. This was the drawback of cross-species marriage. Just when Xiao Qi didn't know how to answer to appear decent, Ao Daisai finally stopped pretending that he couldn't hear his companion's discussion. He said lazily, "You can come to us." That way, they wouldn't stay in place. Xiao Qi was surprised. Yes, there was a feeling of sudden enlightenment. He couldn't help admiring Ao Daisai's problem-solving ability. Why didn't he think of this? As for his companion saying that the little milk whale swam slowly, Ao Daisai didn't refute them. They had no malice towards their companions and didn't seem to feel that there was anything wrong with what they said. Perhaps what their compatriots were waiting for was Ao Daisai's proposal, and they had no objections to this proposal. Compare with Ao Daisai and the little milk whale's honeymoon-like travel. This group of male killer whales, who were used to traveling north and south, was very fast. Xiao Qi knew that they were on the way. He was surprised, and then he couldn't help but wonder if this group of killer whales were so eager to meet up. Did they miss Ao Daisai, or did they want to watch him, the little Antarctic killer whale? The author has something to say. The nutrient solution is full of 200,000 yuan, and there is an update this afternoon. Chapter 94. Knowing that their companions would come to meet them, the two fat tigers, who were eating, drinking, and having fun, became more and more lazy, leading to human drones to capture their lingering traces in the North Pacific. It stood to reason that there were thousands of killer whales in the ocean, and it was difficult to identify which one was which. If every killer whale that was photographed had to be identified, it would really be a test of human eyesight. It was just that these two killer whales were so special that humans remembered them and gave them names. Some time ago, when they parted in the Cologne Islands, people thought that the Atlantic and Antarctic killer whales would be separated. In the future, they would go their separate ways and occasionally get together. Who would have thought that they would appear in the North Pacific more than a month later, which was already very far away from the habitat of the Antarctic killer whales? This was a shocking discovery. Either the Atlantic killer whale had abducted the Antarctic killer whale, or the Antarctic killer whale group had come to the north. The answer, of course, could not be the latter. So they got a very romantic answer. The Antarctic killer whale had left the group with the Atlantic killer whale, as if they felt that it was ideal to live with each other. Humans were shocked and happy to see this. They sincerely wished the male killer whales that they could accompany each other until they grew old. Although it was too early to say this, the older killer whale was less than 11 years old, and the younger one was only 7 or 8 years old. Fortunately, age was not important, and they still firmly chose each other. It looks romantic, but why do I always worry that the Atlantic killer whale will let down our cute little Antarctic killer whale? A researcher said, with emotion. Maybe it's because they're too young? His colleague shrugged and smiled. Or do you think the Atlantic killer whale looks like a scumbag? That was true. No one could deny that the Atlantic killer whale was very handsome, and his ability was very outstanding. It looked like he would have more than one relationship in his life. Every time a drone captured a clip of A.O. Daisai, there were always countless staff members who were shocked and couldn't help but say things like, "Damn, he's so handsome." It could be seen that this killer whale was very charming. There were thousands of killer whales in the ocean, and each killer whale had its own special personality. Some were naughty, some were cute, and generally liked to join the fun. Of course, there were also shy and introverted little angels who rarely appeared in the sight of humans. Otis did not give the humans the impression that he was shy and introverted. In the few times that he had appeared on the screen, the humans had already labeled him as someone with a unique personality, someone who was stable and strong, someone with a story, and someone who would never act cute. Conclusion. This was a cool and handsome killer whale, and his first night ended in the hands of an Antarctic killer whale younger brother. The younger brother was not very special, just cute. Now, I'll add another one. She's especially easy to be abducted. Maybe her IQ isn't too high. If A.O. Daisai abandoned this little angel who was drifting for love, then the little angel could only go home crying. From the North Pole to the South Pole, how many tears would she shed? Xiao Penghu got in a character. The water knows when the fish cries, but who knows when the baby cries? It was impossible to abandon him. As an ordinary little genius in love, Xiao Qixi would never give herself the chance to cry from the South Pole to the North Pole. Rushing in both directions, they converged quickly. If it weren't for the 5 members of the cool guy group chasing a humpback whale cub in the middle, could the gathering have been faster? A lot of food was needed to replenish their physical strength. Even if the squid and turtles in the Bering Sea were big enough, they could not fill the stomachs of the 5 male killer whales. Cool guy, if only A.O. Daisai was here. In the process of chasing the humpback whale cub, they obviously encountered some difficulties, so several brothers made the same sigh. But as always, they did not get a response from A.O. Daisai. After chatting for a while, Xiao Qixi was more or less familiar with them, not to mention that he had a gregarious personality. So he interjected, "What are you doing?" He didn't know if any killer whales would pay attention to him. The brothers of the cool guy group were very respectful, and they answered the question of the Antarctic killer whale in unison, catching a humpback whale cub. Perhaps they felt that the Antarctic killer whale had not seen a big scene, so they deliberately explained, "Have you seen a meddlesome humpback whale?" Xiao Qixi, "Yes. They sing very well." The whale's song was ethereal and beautiful. Cool guy D, "That's a male humpback whale. The female humpback whale they were chasing now didn't like to sing very much. The whale's song, which sounded very nice to humans, was actually a way for whale males to communicate with each other. Chow chi shi, huh? There was such a thing? He couldn't help but be curious. What were they communicating about? The killer whales didn't know, and they didn't want to know. Who would understand what their food was thinking? As long as it was delicious. Chow chi shi. Speechless, he suddenly felt that this group of men was so arrogant. In this way, while listening to the killer whale brothers methodically organizing the hunt, he thought of the story of the love between the humpback whale and the killer whale. Chow chi shi asked curiously, "Why do you hate humpback whales so much?" Cool Guy X5, we don't hate humpback whales. Humpback whales are delicious. Chow chi shi was speechless again. Okay, it's not that you hate humpback whales. It's that humpback whales hate you. After a while, the 5 big killer whales, who were notorious for all kinds of evil and didn't feel that they had done anything wrong, came to the outside of the Bay of California. There were also many killer whales living here. Cool Guy Group, where are you? They needed to find the location of Ao Daisai through echolocation. Interestingly, when they contacted their companions, other killer whales would occasionally intervene, although they didn't know each other. Chow chi shi quickly replied, "Hey here." Chow chi shi felt that they were like online friends now. They sent each other their positions and then looked forward to meeting each other awkwardly and nervously. The difference was that killer whales didn't have beauty or ugliness. They all looked the same, and there was no possibility of them dying in the light. Ao Daisai and Chow chi shi were active in the same place. They were playing in circles like swimming fish. Bullsh *T. Chow chi shi didn't know why Ao Daisai suddenly chased after him and gently bit his tail. He remembered the fear of being dominated by the twins. "What are you doing?" Yulashanda was very dissatisfied. He didn't want to be bitten. Ao Daisai submerged half of his face in the water and blew a big bubble at little cutie, as if to express his dissatisfaction. "Say something." Chow chi shi laughed angrily, trying to control himself from showing his white teeth. He didn't want to play a guessing game with a killer whale. He had guessed it for 2 lifetimes, okay? "I'm biting your tail," Ao Daisai replied. Chow chi shi choked. "Well, okay." He started the right way to ask, "Why are you biting my tail?" "That's too bad." "Why?" This question turned around in Ao Daisai's mind, but he couldn't find an accurate answer because this emotion was too strange and there were no words to describe it. Ao Daisai simply whispered casually, "Because I like you." This was only one of the reasons, but it wasn't accurate enough. Only Ao Daisai himself knew that he was actually a little off. His mood was more than just like, "Okay, for the sake of the other party's sweet mouth." Chow chi shi didn't pursue the matter further. He wouldn't have thought that Ao Daisai would use this jack-of-all-trades answer to brush him off. It wasn't that he didn't want to answer, but that he couldn't find the right words to describe his mood. If Chow chi shi knew, he would definitely feel that his boyfriend was so pitiful. If only he had gone through 9 years of compulsory education, he would have been able to express his jealousy. Ao Daisai, the whale who had missed out on 9 years of compulsory education, was speechless. 5 straight dorsal fins came from afar. These were 5 behemoths. They sometimes jumped out of the water and splashed water, and sometimes dived into the water to move quickly. The scene was very grand and handsome. Chow chi shi knew that this group of killer whales wasn't deliberately showing off. They usually had this kind of formation when they were hurrying. They could make all the creatures within a 50-meter radius, except for the killer whales, flee far away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 big behemoths, crying, accidentally rushed over the head and turned back. Oh no, they just felt that it was more convenient to turn. Then 5 pairs of big grape eyes, unblinkingly, all turned to Chow chi shi. Not to mention, it made Chow chi shi feel quite pressured. They were looking at the Antarctic little killer whales, and the Antarctic little killer whales that had become the focus of attention were also sizing them up. It was really not used to facing so many male killer whales at once. These 5 were still the same as the last time they had a meal together by the shallow sea. Their bodies were uniform, and their ages were not much different. They were all handsome men in black and white suits. There were no yellow spots or barnacles on their bodies. They were all models. "Hello," Xiao Qishi greeted them. The passing whales, who had never seen the world, looked at each other a few times and began to whisper loudly. "The Antarctic little killer whale has gained weight." "Cool Brother C." "Yes, it has gained weight." "Cool Brother B." "The eye spots seem to be bigger than ours." Xiao Qishi was extremely embarrassed and tried to interrupt their whispers as if nothing had happened. "Hello." Also, this was not called gaining weight, it was normal growth. They had met a few months ago, and he was still a growing killer whale. "Hello, Antarctic little killer whale." The 5 handsome men in suits also greeted Xiao Qishi. "What's your name?" Then, the boldest Cool Brother C asked. They occasionally heard A.O. Daisai call the Antarctic little killer whale Little Cutie, but no matter how stupid they were, they knew that this was a nickname. It was A.O. Daisai's own nickname. They couldn't shout it, or they would get beaten up. "Don't tell them," A.O. Daisai ordered, because he felt that Xiao Qishi's name was also very sweet. Babies and whatnot were indeed very sweet and cloying. Xiao Qishi seemed to have thought of this and was embarrassed, so he said his alias. "My name is Yulashanda." No matter what, it was a homophone. From now on, this would be the name of Little Bear Chiao. Yulashanda. This name was very formal, and A.O. Daisai had no opinion. Yulashanda. Yulashanda. The handsome men in suits took turns to shout Xiao Qishi's name, and Xiao Qishi was embarrassed. Everyone knew the name of the little killer whale, and for a time, this name appeared frequently. They began to communicate as if there were no whales around, discussing why A.O. Daisai had abducted Yulashanda. "Cool Brother B." "Yes, why?" "Cool Brother, it seems that you guys encouraged him to go." "Cool Brother, we just encouraged him to go on a date." They would never take the blame for encouraging A.O. Daisai to abduct Yulashanda. "Shut up." The scene was too noisy, and A.O. Daisai seemed to dislike it. Xiao Qishi was in a very good mood and didn't feel offended. Maybe he was used to the style of this group of killer whales. "Ai Leo." A.O. Daisai shouted the name of the leader and reminded the group of companions who were watching Yulashanda. "Introduce your names." Since they knew the little cutie's name, they should use their own names in exchange. Xiao Qishi wanted to say that there was no need. In fact, from their usual chatter, he knew what he should know and what he shouldn't know. However, the handsome men in suits seemed to have a sense of ceremony. "Well," Cool Brother C said, "I am Carrie." Then, he also introduced his age, which was between 20 and 30 years old. In addition, he liked to eat shark liver, which was highly recommended. "Cool Brother A. Ai Leo." "Cool Brother B. Balala." "Cool Brother D. Daya." "Cool Brother E. Ai D." Ai Leo was the leader of the whale group. He was the oldest, 28 years old this year. The reason why this group was called the Cool Brother Group was mostly because he was really cool. Balala was 25 years old. Xiao Qishi's impression of him was that he was cold on the outside, but passionate on the inside. He liked to talk dirty. Daya was very normal. He was a somewhat cold little handsome guy, and he was 18 years old. AID was A.O. Daisai's fan, but he was very smart and 16 years old this year. Carrie should be the most typical killer whale. After all, he was a black and white color, and he more or less had the characteristics of a husky in his bones. He was 20 years old, and his character was stable and ruthless. He was a well-known pioneer shark hunter. "Yulashanda, do you want to eat a great white shark?" Carrie's voice carried a smile. Xiao Qishi, "No need." As he said that, he couldn't help but swim behind A.O. Daisai to hide. This group of thugs in suits looked a little scary when they got closer. "Don't scare him." A.O. Daisai protected Yulashanda, and his big tail was there. He warned in an imposing manner, "He's still young." The author has something to say. I'm late. Thank you everyone for the nutrient solution. Love you all, W. Chapter 95. This group of good-looking fat tigers had already known from their previous conversations that the Antarctic killer whale A.O. Daisai had abducted was less than 8 years old. It was indeed young enough. However, a smart guy pointed out the truth. Ao Daisai was also very young. Everyone suddenly realized, yes. They remembered that Ao Daisai was only 6 years old when he joined their group, and then he became a master hunter at the age of 8. In the past 2 years, he had become more and more ferocious. Not only did he bully his prey, but he also bullied his companions who were weaker than him. Ao Daisai always bullies me. Gary temporarily gave up teasing Yolashanda, who had just joined the team and was distracted by other questions. You provoked him first, a companion explained. I only bullied him twice, at most 3 times. Gary defended himself. Balera, so it's not wrong for him to take revenge on you. Hearing everyone complaining that Ao Daisai was too ferocious and often beat them up, Xiao Chishi, who was hiding in the back, gradually became fearless. Maybe the passerby whales were really ferocious, but they wouldn't target him. What's more, Ao Daisai was protecting him, like a mountain between him and the group of passerby whales. Looking at this posture, even if he died, he wouldn't hurt Ao Daisai. Oh, he hasn't recovered his memory, but he's already so protective. Xiao Chishi felt warm in his heart, so he couldn't help but lean on Ao Daisai. A heavy feeling came from his body, and the Atlantic killer whale, who was threatening his companions, let out a soft cry. He seemed to understand that Yolashanda was leaning on him, and his momentum suddenly eased. I'm fine, Xiao Chishi said softly. After thinking about it, he kissed Ao Daisai. The handsome killer whale brother, who was deeply loved by the little milk whale, also carelessly rubbed back, but his mind was still on guard against his ferocious companions. It seemed that he felt that if he wasn't here, the little milk whale would be touched and eaten by his companions. Their interaction successfully made the whole group quiet down. Everyone stopped talking, and their eyes looked at them from all kinds of angles. Suddenly being stared at so intently by 5 pairs of deep eyes, Yolashanda was startled. What were they doing? Could it be that his public display of affection with Ao Daisai had caused the group to be angry? However, upon closer inspection, it didn't seem to be the case. The 5 handsome killer whales with intelligence showed curiosity and interest in the intimate scene between him and Ao Daisai. Well, to give an inappropriate example, it was like watching an idol drama, where the older brothers express curiosity about their younger brother's love. What were you guys doing just now? Carrie asked despite knowing the answer. They're kissing. Eddie's voice was faint. Xiao Chishi's face blushed. You guys sure know a lot. Wait, in this group, his old uncles is old man of them of Daisai's S asterisk. S asterisk 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 S asterisk asterisk S asterisk S asterisk S asterisk asterisk S asterisk of AO's asterisk 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 S asterisk 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 S asterisk 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 S asterisk S asterisk 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 S asterisk then asterisk S asterisk asterisk. Was Ao Chishi interested in his companions? This association turned around in Ao Daisai's mind. Then an uncomfortable feeling welled up in Ao Daisai's heart, which deeply confused him. Do you like them? Ao Daisai finally asked. Xiao Chishi blinked and replied, I only like you. In the ocean where an IQ of 50 was enough, Xiao Penghu would never fail. Ao Daisai rubbed his body against the cutie next to him as if to say good boy. This small interaction was caught again, and even the captain was quietly paying attention. Oh, it was so exciting to see Ao Daisai flirting with the Antarctic killer whale. But after that, the scene disappeared. The sleepy Ao Chishi waved his tail a few times and suggested in a tired voice, Are any of you sleepy? Accompany me to sleep. Let AI Leo accompany you. It was Balala who spoke. They say that the older you get, the more you sleep. You're not like that. Yes, let AI Leo accompany you. Ao Chishi was always sleepy. Every killer whale in the team had been caught to sleep with him, except for Ao Daisai. Captain, I'm going to hunt. You can look for Daya. Daya, I'm not sleepy. You can look for Gary. Gary, I'm not sleepy either. I can kill 2 more sharks. He flicked his tail and ran away, as if he was afraid of being caught by Ao Chishi to sleep. Xiao Chishi was confused, but his intuition told him that there was a story. These bastards. Ao Chishi complained faintly. It seemed that he could only go to sleep by himself. Although Ao Daisai didn't refuse, he wouldn't dare to ask Ao Daisai to sleep with him even if he had 1,000 guts. Are you looking at me? Ao Chishi noticed Xiao Chishi's gaze and asked expectantly, Yulashanda, do you want to sleep with me? Xiao Chishi was stunned. No, Ao Daisai answered for her little boyfriend. Ao Chishi swam away in disappointment. Ao Chishi. Xiao Chishi was puzzled and asked in a low voice, why does he want everyone to sleep with him? He moves around when he's asleep and bites things around him. Ao Daisai revealed the truth without hesitation. I see. It turned out that killer whales also had this kind of quirk. Xiao Chishi sighed. The world was so big that nothing was too strange. But alas, sometimes dogs would act like this when they were asleep, so this wasn't a pattern of humans. The captain in the distance sent a message. Ao Daisai come. They were hunting and needed Ao Daisai's participation. Got it. Ao Daisai responded. Of course, he was duty-bound to hunt as a team. He and the little milk whale hadn't eaten for a while, and hunting as a team could bring them more food. Eating fish and shrimp every day always made him feel like he was mistreating the little milk whale, even if the fish they ate were big fish. Yulashanda didn't mind eating fish every day, but he could finally participate in a team hunt. As a killer whale, he was very much looking forward to the life of dominating the sea. They're coming, Yulashanda shouted. Then he excitedly asked Ao Daisai, are we going to rest here for a few days or go to the North Pole immediately? Ao Daisai, let's discuss later. Ing. Xiao Penghu said nice. The 2 groups of killer whales set off one after the other and soon met up. At this time, they were still some distance away from the prey, so they needed to discuss countermeasures before moving forward. Although Ao Daisai's individual strength was very strong in the whole team, he usually listened to the captain. This was the rule of killer whales. They respected the old and loved the young. The older ones had the absolute right to speak. The captain carefully instructed the strategy, and Xiao Chishi understood. The prey was a white whale, and he was good at catching it. Strategy: disperse the group of white whales, lock onto the target, create a wall of bubbles, and disrupt the prey's sense of direction. This was a bit like the hunting strategy of humpback whales, and the fat tigers had learned it. AB was responsible for dispersing, CD was responsible for creating a wall of bubbles, and Ao Daisai was responsible for sneak attacks. Well, this arrangement was not bad. Xiao Chishi, what about me? In the end, he didn't hear the captain instructing him to do anything. The whole team was quiet. Yes, there was an Antarctic killer whale here that needed to be arranged. Before the captain spoke, Ao Daisai said, do you want to go play nearby? Everyone seemed to think that this was a good idea, and they added, there are many beautiful jellyfish here. It turned out that he would play with jellyfish when he played. Some jellyfish are poisonous, and your mouth will be numb. Gary had to remind them. It seemed that he also played. Yulashanda doesn't like jellyfish. Ao Daisai interrupted their messy suggestions. Let's play drilling holes. I'll find you after the hunt. Little Bear Chow's ambition was hurt by the words of these killer whales. He was angry. I don't want to drill holes. I can catch white whales too. Everyone seemed to be stumped and didn't answer for a long time. Who didn't know that Antarctic killer whales only knew how to catch fish and shrimp? It wasn't like they hadn't been to Antarctica before. It wasn't good to refuse directly, so the captain said, let Eddie play with you. The other companions began to call Eddie, but there was no response. Apparently, Eddie had fallen asleep. Xiao Chishi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He felt that this group of handsome men in suits was prejudiced against him, and the biggest prejudice against him was Ao Daisai. I can catch white whales, he reiterated again. You can't. Ao Daisai helped little cutie recognize himself. Ah, annoying. I can make a bubble maze with CD. Don't worry, I can do it. Xiao Qixi ignored the blow from her boyfriend and raised her little hand, or rush into the whales. He had done it a lot when he was a lion, so he could really do it. You can't participate. Ao Daisai was very rational. In the face of Yulishanda's self-recommendation, he dealt with it with intelligence online. You can observe us from his side. Well, Xiao Qixi understood when he said that. Yes, he had never cooperated before, so he really should familiarize himself with the team style first. Okay. He was finally obedient. The whole team members thought, Antarctic killer whales are so difficult to coax. Ao Daisai is so awesome. Before Ao Daisai and his companions left, he kissed Yulishanda and said, in fact, drilling holes is more fun than watching us hunt. Xiao Qixi, get lost. He wanted to follow. The fat Antarctic killer whale chased after them with all its might, splashing high water on the road. Ao Daisai found that the little cutie was chasing after his tail, but he couldn't catch up. The thug in the suit who doted on his partner slowed down and deliberately hung on to the other party with his tail fin. After Xiao Qixi caught up, she used the appropriate strength to bite her boyfriend's tail as if to vent her anger. Then she heard Ao Daisai chuckle softly, and the sound was very pleasant. After chasing for a while, Xiao Qixi finally found out that the other party was going easy on them. She was angry and amused at the same time, but also a little sweet. The little milk whale lost interest and stopped biting the tail. Ao Daisai was still not used to it, so he kept swinging his tail fin to tease the other party. Was it not interested? Drilling holes? Ao Daisai's voice sounded like a devil. In the next second, the little milk whale gritted its teeth and chased after the hateful boyfriend. Ao Daisai was satisfied. It was impossible to drill holes. After entering the hunting range, both Ao Daisai and Xiao Qixi put away their playful mood. The vanguard had already set out, driving the whales to lock onto the target. Ao Daisai, who was arranged to be in the third segment, slowly approached and watched. Xiao Qixi was waiting outside the battle circle, and she was quite nervous. The lone prey had been targeted by the thugs in the suit, and they gathered together to create a bubble maze around the prey. At this time, the prey was still very sensitive and could escape at any time, until his sense of direction was disturbed by the maze, and he didn't know where to escape. Ao Daisai appeared at this time, acting as the executioner who gave the prey a fatal blow. Unlike sharks who like to bleed their prey and then quietly wait for the prey to bleed to death, killer whales preferred to use absolute strength to knock their prey unconscious. Ao Daisai was undoubtedly powerful. He rushed into the bubble maze from the outside and hit the prey with his head. If Xiao Qixi was there, he would have heard the sound of bones being displaced. That was the sound of the spine being severely broken. The author has something to say. There are not many things to do today. Everyone, you can't quit going out during the spring festival. Chapter 96. The maze array learned from the humpback whale not only blocked the view of the prey, but also blocked Xiao Qixi's view. He couldn't see when Ao Daisai attacked. He only saw a huge splash of water surging around, and the scene looked very anxious. Did he succeed? Maybe he could see more clearly if he dived into the water. The sound of the water passed by his ears, just like the sound recorded when humans were shooting in the water in a diving suit. Some people said that it was cool to listen to this sound with headphones. It could heal the mood. Xiao Qixi was used to it and didn't think much of it. He could see more clearly if he dived into the water. The tails of several big killer whales steered in the water, and Xiao Qixi could tell which one was his boyfriend at a glance. The bubbles caused by the impact of the prey surged to the surface of the water and disappeared. The bright red blood spread in the water. The ruthless thugs in suits did not waste any time and had begun to bite the seriously injured prey. According to the usual practice, the leader ate first, and the other killer whales did not approach at all. Because of this, these killer whales looked very attractive even if they were ferocious. Their every move was gentlemanly and elegant. and their cries were strangely cute, especially the most distinctive one. It gave Xiao Qishi the feeling that he was very skillful, amazing. Xiao Qishi was in a daze, and a voice came, "Little cutie, come and eat." It was the casual voice of his Ao Daisai. Ah. Xiao Qishi put away the worship in her heart and swam over shamelessly. Well, is it really good to eat for free? He was not afraid of eating Ao Daisai. Was he still not used to it after so many years? He was afraid that the other killer whales would have opinions. Thinking of this, Xiao Qishi blinked. When did I become so thin-skinned? Yulashanda. Yulashanda. ABCD took turns to call his name, and it seemed that they didn't mind that the Antarctic killer whale was eating for free. Not only did they not mind, but they also showed a come, I can afford it attitude. Little killer whale, are you hungry? It was not Brother C's turn to eat. He swung his tail and came to Xiao Qishi's side. However, before he could get close, Ao Daisai pushed him away. Eek! Gary was sent flying with a cry of agony, like a submarine that had lost control in the water. Hungry! Xiao Qishi stared dumbfoundedly at this barbaric scene and asked worriedly, Ao Daisai, doesn't he feel pain? I don't know. What Otis meant was that he was not interested in whether Jerry was in pain or not. He did not care whether Jerry was in pain or not. Xiao Qishi shut her mouth and secretly felt pity for her. No wonder Jilly always said that she was bullied by Ao Daisai. But in fact, it didn't seem to be Ao Daisai's fault. Don't worry about him. The black and white handsome man, who was ruthless to his companions, swam behind Xiao Qishi and pushed Xiao Qishi forward. Pushed in front of the slowly sinking prey, the captain had just finished eating. Balala was about to come up to eat, but he was happy to give the opportunity to Yulashanda and said, Little killer whale, eat more. Xiao Qishi fully felt the kindness of her tyrant brothers and obediently said, Eek, to express her gratitude. The prey was about to sink. Xiao Penghu jumped up with a beautiful movement and opened his mouth to bite the abdomen of the prey. The stomach had been torn open by the captain, and the soft meat was easy to bite. He swallowed a mouthful of meat and heard a few voices praising his teeth. Xiao Qishi didn't expect to be praised. Eat a few more bites. Ao Daisai's voice was full of laughter and seemed to be in a good mood. The other party watched him eat and occasionally chatted with his companions. Did Eddie wake up? He's not hungry. Xiao Qishi was laughing as she ate. She felt that this group of killer whales were bad. Interesting, Gary, who had been knocked out, swam back cursing. But if one listened carefully, he was just complaining that it hurt so much that his spine was almost broken. This experience gave him more material to accuse Ao Daisai of being cruel. But it seemed that he would do it again next time. I hate Ao Daisai. Halfway through his sentence, he found that Xiao Qishi was eating. Gary immediately changed his tone. Little killer whale, eat more. He was full of gentleness to Yulashanda. Yulashanda was different. Yulashanda looked like she couldn't fight at all. Thank you, Xiao Qishi said sincerely, but she was confused. Didn't you say that I was fat? Why did you ask me to eat more? At this moment, the human mind affected him. The 5 wild animals said in unison, It's a good thing to be fat. Xiao Qishi thought for a moment and couldn't find the words to refute. Everyone was right. Wasn't it a good thing? He happily ate the white whale meat. It tasted as good as before. The tongue of a killer whale also had taste buds and could taste all kinds of rich flavors. One prey was not enough for the killer whale group to eat at once. The killer whales didn't have the habit of eating until they were full. Eating less and eating more was the way for large animals like them to survive. Xiao Qishi stopped eating when she was almost done. She consciously gave up her position and gave the food to the other killer whales. Balala and Gary swarmed up, and the prey was quickly divided into 2 halves. Ao Daisai and Daya shared the other half. A few killer whales swam around in the water and soon finished eating their prey. Like humans, most mammals felt sleepy when they were full. The cool leader A's voice was a little lazy. Go find Eddie. Although she despised Eddie, who would move around when he was asleep, it didn't seem good to leave him alone. Let's swim a little slower. Ao Daisai was also lazy. His body was almost motionless in the water. Compared to his hunting state, he was now like a useless fish. He could only blame the sun for being too warm. This blue sea was too warm. Xiao Qishi understood immediately. After hesitating for a moment, she also agreed to fall behind a little. Sure enough, the huge thing behind her pressed on. Xiao Qishi squeaked under the pressure and hurriedly ran away. The huge figure pressed down from above the first time, but came up from below the water the second time. Xiao Qishi felt that her abdomen had been touched. She exclaimed softly and scolded, "Don't do this." The sound waves rippled in the sea, circle after circle. ABCD held her breath. Her big, shiny grape eyes said, "More. If you make a sound, you'll be spied on." Ao Daisai reminded her faintly. Xiao Qishi was speechless for a while. "Isn't this your fault?" He was ready to muster up all his strength and fan the pervert away with his tail. Unfortunately, the other party was already very close, moving forward happily with a posture of hugging him. "Don't struggle," Ao Daisai warned the little killer whale in his arms. "If you rub my abdomen, it will come out." Xiao Qishi's face was hot, and his heart was beating fast. Hearing this, he didn't dare to move. He knew that Ao Daisai wasn't bluffing. What he said was true. They hugged each other obediently. With the change and influence of the water current, Xiao Qishi's posture unconsciously changed to lying on his back. In fact, lying like this was also very comfortable. There was a feeling of warmth all over, and it was very relaxing. And he could see the sun shining into the water. Xiao Qishi liked it very much. Gradually, his heartbeat calmed down, and he no longer paid attention to a certain someone who was flirting with him. The tyrant of the sea on top of him also seemed to enjoy this feeling. Ao Daisai, who needed 7 to 8 hours of sleep every day, closed his eyes at the moment. When they were drowsy, they vaguely heard Carrie and the others find Eddie, who had drifted away. There was a high probability that they were sleeping together. Xiao Qishi, who was in a daze, asked, "Hey, are we going to sleep with them?" "No," Ao Daisai denied possessively. It wasn't about whether to go over or not, but that they couldn't go over. Even if the little cutie wanted to go over and join in the fun, he thought about it and didn't want to agree. Of course, little cutie Xiao Qishi didn't want to join the fun. That would be too awkward. Since Ao Daisai said no, he fell asleep. After 10 minutes, Ao Daisai turned the fat Antarctic killer whale over. "Breathe, Xiao Qishi. QAQ, I know how to do this. I really know how to do it." Cool guy group. It was a fact that the Antarctic killer whale couldn't take care of itself. Not only were the sounds of their love overheard by their companions, but all of their daily lives also became small videos. People realized that Ao Daisai didn't elope with Yolashanda, whom he liked. What he did was to bring the young Yolashanda back to live with the group. The researchers didn't know whether to laugh or cry. They felt that this killer whale was so sneaky that he even knew how to let his companions help raise Yolashanda. As far as they were concerned, Yolashanda didn't participate in the hunt today. The reason was unknown, but that kind of teasing was just a joke. Killer whales didn't mind taking care of weak companions. What was more surprising was that Yolashanda wasn't weak at all. No matter how you looked at it, he should be a killer whale with outstanding abilities. Xiao Qishi, isn't that right? But his boyfriend didn't let him do anything, so he was helpless. When he woke up, it was already dark. Xiao Qishi's attention was attracted by a lively voice. It was Carrie calling his name. "Yolashanda, come and look at the jellyfish, the glowing jellyfish." "You're so noisy, Carrie," Bararath said matter-of-factly. "The little killer whale is still sleeping. If you wake him up, Ao Daisai will beat you up." "Really?" Carrie paused and whispered. "Yolashanda, are you still sleeping?" Idiot Daya mocked. "Daya, do you want to fight with me?" Carrie snorted. The handsome men in suits who had slept for the whole afternoon were full of energy and energy. "I don't fight with idiots." Daya swam far away, as if he thought that idiocy was contagious. "I'm awake," Xiao Qishi replied. "Thank you, Carrie. We're coming over now." Hearing Xiao Qishi's voice, all the killer whales were quiet for a moment, and then several of them said in unison, "Carrie, you're finished." Huh? Xiao Qishi didn't quite understand. Why did they all say that Carrie was finished? It wasn't until Ao Daisai took him over and let him play with the jellyfish alone for a while, and then chased after Carrie and fanned his tail that he realized that they were jealous. Ao Daisai swam back after beating up Carrie, and his huge body shuttled through the glowing jellyfish. Compared with Ao Daisai's lack of interest in the jellyfish, Yulashanda was very interested. He had loved to see the underwater world since he was a child. There were glowing jellyfish all around, and they were light blue in color. Xiao Qishi touched a jellyfish that swam in front of him with his mouth, and immediately felt that his lips were numb, which was unexpectedly a little exciting. No wonder dolphins like to gather and suck pufferfish, because mild toxins could really go to the head. Carrie and the others knew that their mouths would be numb when they touched the jellyfish, which meant that they actually did this kind of thing often. Xiao Qishi was curious. Had Ao Daisai done this before? So he encouraged Ao Daisai to touch the jellyfish as well. This feeling was like encouraging a good child to smoke, which made him feel a little guilty. He wanted to change his mind, but then he saw Ao Daisai touch the jellyfish with his mouth, and he snickered. He guessed that Ao Daisai's lips were numb too. The numb feeling did bring Ao Daisai pleasure, but it wouldn't go to the head. He just wanted to know how Xiao Qishi felt, and he would know once he touched the jellyfish. It was hard for Xiao Qishi to know what Ao Daisai was thinking. AID, who usually didn't get beaten up, swam over and opened his mouth in front of Ao Daisai and Yulashanda, and a glowing jellyfish floated out of his mouth. AID and Xiao Qishi laughed together, and they seemed to be very happy. Feeling Yulashanda's happiness, Ao Daisai was also very happy and didn't express any dissatisfaction with AID's approach. Gary felt that he had been treated unfairly, and one of his killer whales quietly complained that Ao Daisai really liked AID more. All the killer whales. In fact, we also like AID more, except that we don't like to sleep with him. Xiao Qishi, as a new member, blew bubbles awkwardly and didn't express his opinion. In order to ease the atmosphere, Xiao Qishi threw out the topic of going to the North Pole and asked everyone if they wanted to go to the North Pole. The North Pole? The North Pole. They knew this place, but they rarely went there. It was known that there was less food there. But if the little killer whale wanted to go, why not? I agree, the head said in a timely manner. He seemed to know that his opinion was very important, so he didn't think too long. Go ahead, BCD said one by one. It felt that they had no interest in the North Pole, but it was not good to refuse the little killer whale's proposal, so it didn't matter. Xiao Qishi was moved and thanked the group of friendly killer whales from the bottom of his heart for accompanying him to the North Pole. Thank you, everyone, the Antarctic little killer whale said in a sweet voice. The group of cool guys thought to themselves, I quite like him. Ao Daisai hadn't expressed his opinion because he didn't need to. It seemed that he would accompany Yulashanda wherever she wanted to go. The North Pole? Something flashed in his mind, but he couldn't remember it. The group of passing whales was like a free wind. They stayed in the Bay of California for 2 days and swam north along the coast. Most people think that giants like killer whales like to live in deep-sea areas, but in fact, they like to live close to the shore. Seal, because I also live close to the shore. On the coast of California, a group of humans took boats, fishing, sunbathing, and swimming in the calm sea. Some people ask, are they not afraid of sharks? They're not afraid because there are a lot of killer whales in this area. As we all know, where there are killer whales, there are no sharks. There are many killer whale enthusiasts who gather here to take pictures of killer whales and swim with them. When some killer whales swim past here, they do express curiosity about humans and come to see what they are doing. But this group of killer whales definitely doesn't include Ao Daisai's group. They are as free as the wind and incredibly smart. They're just passing by. They only came close to the shore to chase a seal. There are humans. AID found the boat. He doesn't like to be close to humans. Are we still going to chase that seal? Let's go. Yulashanda is still hungry, Carrie said. Xiao Qishi, no, Don't push the blame to me. I don't care if you don't eat a meal. I'll go after it. Ao Daisai said that he was not afraid of humans or human cameras. He was more experienced in beaching. So Ao Daisai left, and they waited in place. I'm hungry. I'm going to catch a big fish. Balala also swam away. Big fish are not delicious, Daya said. This group of killer whales disliked fish and shrimp. Xiao Qishi blinked. Big brother, because you all swallow directly, it's definitely not delicious. While they were waiting, a human wearing a diving suit appeared in the group of killer whales' field of vision. In the eyes of the killer whales, the human swam very slowly. The other party seemed to want to get close to them and have close contact with them. The group leader saw through the human's trick and left with the group members coldly. Yulashanda, hide behind me. He wants to touch you. Xiao Qishi, you are so smart. Yes, ignore him. Carrie was experienced. They took the Antarctic killer whale and swam into the deep sea. In case Ao Daisai's little cutie was taken advantage of by the human. The group of cool guys. We are fireworks with different colors. We don't serve people with our looks. Chapter 97. The human divers were indeed swimming towards them. Their target was very obvious. It was Xiao Qishi, who was at the front. Just now, Xiao Qishi followed behind Ao Daisai like a little shadow. He tried to release the little beast in his heart and also wanted to follow up and show his skills. However, his stranding technique was not very good. When he saw a lot of messy stones on the shore, he slipped away. It seemed that it was more suitable to wait for the big meal in an unfamiliar environment. The captain and Carrie's reminder made him take a look at the human with a respirator in her mouth. She had long flowing hair and seemed to be a young lady. She was so bold that she dared to rush into the group of killer whales alone. Xiao Qishi did not want to be touched. If it was before he became an animal, he would have welcomed the young lady to touch him. But now things were different, and he had long been bent into a mosquito coil. Oh, not to mention the wrong species, even the sexual orientation was not right. The cute black and white fat tiger in the water suddenly blinked its eyes, turned its face, and hid behind its companions. It left a tail that was cute but strong enough to send a seal flying. The diver was puzzled. She probably did not expect that there would be killer whales that did not like to suck humans. She did not want to come over to touch the killer whales, but to experience the beauty of being surrounded by killer whales. According to the diver's long-term experience here, as long as she came to the sea to dive, these big cuties would take the initiative to come over to watch her and swim slowly behind her legs. The diver did not know that this group of killer whales was different. They were so cool that they had no friends. Not only did they not play with humans, but they also brainwashed their new companions. Being touched by humans was called being taken advantage of. Please have some self-respect. Little Bear, who was hiding behind the captain, was puzzled. He did not allow them to touch him because men and women should not touch each other. Why did Carrie and the others not allow them to touch him? Don't you like to play with humans? Xiao Qishi used to be a scientific researcher. He felt that he had the obligation to learn more about killer whales under such convenient conditions. Maybe he could transmigrate back to being a human in the future. Even if he did not do scientific research, he could still write novels to make money. The title of the book would be The Years I Transmigrated as an Animal. It was guaranteed to be true and reliable. I don't like it. Carrie seemed to recall some unpleasant memories, and his voice became agitated and angry. He complained to Xiao Qishi. The gist of it was that there were several times when fishing boats followed them and took away their food. In the end, they could only go hungry to other places to find food. They never went back to the area where fishing boats often appeared. That area was blacklisted by them. Which sea is it? Xiao Qishi guessed while waiting for the answer. It's on the other side of the big island. It was a very accurate place, but Gary could not say it out loud. He could only vaguely describe the geographical location. Xiao Qishi used her limited geographical knowledge and Carrie's description to come up with two answers. It was either the Coral Sea or the Tasman Sea. Fishing boats often appeared in the Tasman Sea, between New Zealand and Australia. You guys are amazing. You actually went to such a far place? Yolashanda sincerely admired them. He heard that the killer whales there were particularly fierce, and there were many humans. It was not easy to snatch food in that place. Well, he accidentally seemed to have seen through the reason why the killer whales there were so fierce. Because if they were not fierce, they would not be able to survive. It's just SOSO. Carrie and the others swam everywhere all year round. They had no concept of distance and distance at all. Anyway, wherever they swam, they would eat. If they developed a sense of disgust for a place, then bye-bye. Chow Chi-Chi thought, you are still modest. At this time, Otis was chasing after the seal alone. Seeing the dorsal fin on the surface of the water, the people who were standing on the shore cheered. They quickly took out their phones and cameras to take pictures and videos of the sea surface. The killer whale is chasing seals. The people's voices were endless. They were so excited and crazy. It was not clear whether they were encouraging the seals to escape quickly or cheering for the heroic appearance of the killer whale. Seals were also very cute. For a while, the humans did not know which side to support. After thinking about it, they could only stay neutral and be a spectator with peace of mind. Of course, Ao Daisai could hear the voices of the humans on the shore. It had no effect on him. The only thing that could affect him was the escape of the prey. The environment here was really unfriendly to him. If he was not careful, he would hit the bottom. If he hit a stone, it would be quite painful. Originally, he was chasing after a seal. That seal was running away so fast that he almost gave up. However, things took a turn for the worse. There were actually 2 seals in that seal's path of escape. Maybe even they did not understand what was going on now. Hey, brother, why are you running away? The seal that was chased until it was exhausted said, if a leopard doesn't look out for itself, the heavens and the earth will destroy it. He did not mean to divert the trouble. It could only be said that each leopard had its own fate. Sometimes accidents came so quickly. In the end, the seal that was chased all the way successfully went ashore and became the darling of the human camera. It seemed to be celebrating that it had escaped a disaster. Ao Daisai gave up on the seal that ran very fast halfway. His desire to survive had stimulated the seal's primitive power, and he was too lazy to chase it to the end. However, he did not go back empty-handed. There was still a small killer whale waiting for him to feed it. Ao Daisai just changed his target very casually halfway. Taking advantage of the seal's inattention, he bit the seal's body. His action of turning back to the deep sea set off a big movement on the surface of the sea. Most of his huge black and white body was exposed, and this scene was all filmed. The big killer whale, who was always dressed in a suit and leather shoes, looked good from 360 degrees without any blind spots. So handsome. I thought he was going to fail. Now, the seal that escaped desperately succeeded in going ashore. The big killer whale caught other seals and did not go hungry. The seal that fell into the mouth of the whale. What strange logic is this? Ao Daisai returned to the position where he had parted with Yolashanda, but he did not find the figure he wanted to see. And where did you go? Ao Daisai. Here. AID exposed his position, which was a little far away. Ao Daisai did not move for a while, because this was not the signal he was waiting for. Ao Daisai here. A sweet voice bubbled up. At this time, Ao Daisai's eyes changed. He ignored AID and swam in the direction of Chow Chi-Chi. Through Gary's narration, Ao Daisai learned that the reason why his companions hid so far away was that a human wanted to touch Yolashanda just now. In the process of telling this story, Gary angrily repeated the dark history of human beings. Everyone in the group had probably heard this so much that they did not respond to Gary's words. Ao Daisai leaned in front of Yolashanda and rubbed his face. Do the same next time. They hid far away when they saw humans. Chow Chi-Chi acknowledged, but he was still very curious. He felt that Gary and the others' hatred for humans was not as simple as snatching their food. There must be something else behind it. Little Bear, who was very curious, rubbed against her boyfriend and wanted to hear the story. Is it really because their food is snatched that they hate humans? There was a strange silence around them. Everyone very tacitly focused their attention on the seal. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Seal meat is so delicious. Chow chi shi. There's something fishy. But these killer whales seemed to be unwilling to tell the truth. But it was okay. He knew how to trick them. It was not a problem to trick them. Well, but I feel that snatching food is not enough to make me stay away from humans. Chow chi shi murmured, as if he was talking to himself. He was not deliberately trying to trick them. As long as they don't hurt me, not every human will snatch my food. They will. Gary couldn't hold back and was the first to expose himself. What will they do? Chow chi shi snickered in his heart. Here it comes. The truth is right in front of him. It was really easy to trick the killer whales. They will hurt you. Ao Daisai heard that Gary had already said half of the story, so he no longer hesitated. It was said that animals would have psychological trauma from certain events. The powerful killer whales were the same. They had been visually and spiritually impacted, so they did not want to recall certain things. When he started to mention it, the other killer whales were unusually silent. Human fishing boats not only fish, but also catch whales. We have seen killer whales being hoisted on fishing boats. He was killed, the captain added. They all saw this scene. They saw the killer whale's body being cut open on the deck and blood flowing down from the boat. It's so scary, Eddie whispered. Chow chi shi was speechless. He had known that humans caught whales for a long time, but he did not expect that Ao Daisai and the others had seen it with their own eyes. But it was also true. They had traveled extensively and must have seen a lot of such things. That bloody scene must have left a very dark memory for these killer whales. I know, I will be obedient. Chow chi shi solemnly promised everyone, and then rubbed against them one by one because he was distressed. This was the first time he rubbed against a killer whale in the group. He felt that the other party was a little shy and did not move at all. It seemed that he did not expect the Antarctic killer whale to suddenly be so reckless. Is Ao Daisai not going to take care of it? 5 pairs of big grape eyes drifted to Ao Daisai, and there was a sense of vigilance. It was not clear whether they wanted him to take care of it or not. Let's not think about the past. In the future, when we see humans, we should avoid them and don't get close to the big ship, Chow chi shi said. The handsome men in suits who were rubbed against woke up from a dream. Oh, did they finish rubbing against each other so quickly? Is that true? Yeah. Ao Daisai, who usually liked to be jealous, did not show dissatisfaction this time. It seemed that he also hoped that something could heal the wounds in everyone's hearts. Chow chi shi came back after rubbing against Ao Daisai, who seemed to not care even if the sky fell down. She thought about it and rubbed against him very gently. She quietly comforted him. You too, don't be sad. Ao Daisai lowered his eyes and wanted to say, which I, the little cutie, saw that I was sad. He was not sad. In his long life, those few frames only occupied a small part of his memory. Remembering them did not mean sadness. But he did not know what he thought of, and he just responded, Good. This time, Chow chi shi raised her head and kissed Ao Daisai's forehead. She was as gentle as the pear blossoms floating in the air in spring. The softness of the little milk whale helped everyone to drive away the dark and bloody pictures. The killer whales were immersed in the joy of rubbing against each other and did not recall the bad things. Because of this incident, Chow chi shi finally realized the richness of killer whales' emotions, perhaps even more than that of elephants. Elephants will mourn for their companions, but killer whales will remember even the same kind of disaster that they don't know for a long time. They just don't usually show it. They are more intelligent than the other killer whales that Chow chi shi has come into contact with. They are so cool that they have no friends. Maybe this is why Ao Daisai chose to join this group. Let's chat. Do you usually have any other friends outside besides your own companions? Do you go out on a regular date or something? On the way after eating, Chow chi shi leaned against Ao Daisai and drifted forward. Ah, yes, this part of the road is downstream. It's so cool. Chatting with everyone while drifting helps to improve their relationship. In fact, because of the gossip, he had wanted to ask for a long time, but they were not so familiar with each other before, so such a private question was not easy to ask. However, 5 seconds later, there was only the sound of bubbles blowing around. Did everyone not hear the question? They have no friends. Ao Daisai is a killer whale that doesn't talk nonsense. But now he bluntly exposed the friendship situation of his companions because Xiao Qishi wanted to know. This reason is enough. Xiao Qishi said, "Oh, it turns out that killer whales don't like to make friends." This answer was within his expectations. When he was still learning language, killer whales were the least talkative in the entire ocean. How can friends be considered friends if they don't chat? Ao Daisai, you don't have friends either. The smart Gary seemed to feel that this was a joke. He broke the defense and began to attack his companions indiscriminately. It's right that everyone has no friends. Ao Daisai pondered for a moment. I have Yulashanda. The surrounding sea area quieted down again. Obviously, even Gary, who is best at quarreling, can't do anything to Ao Daisai. Who doesn't want to have Yulashanda, oh no, or any other killer whale? Balala, Gary whispered to Balala. Are there any Antarctic killer whales in the North Pole? Maybe they can catch one when they get there. Balala thought for a while and said, I don't know. He has never been to the North Pole. How does he know if there are any Antarctic killer whales there? But there shouldn't be any. Antarctic killer whales only live in the South Pole. However, when he turned his head and caught a glimpse of the sticky Yulashanda with Ao Daisai, Balala fell into confusion. Forget it, he's just a killer whale. He doesn't know anything. The noise dispelled the silence and emptiness brought by the deep sea, and it was very friendly to people who like to be lively. Xiao Qishi was in a good mood. Seeing that Tian was killed by Ao Daisai, he didn't start the conversation again. Instead, he used the language of the Antarctic killer whales to contact his relatives far away in the Cologne Islands and made an overseas call to them. After going out, he would make a few calls every few days. The content was like a human chatting about what they had done recently, what they had eaten, and where they had gone. Ciao, little bear. At present, my relationship with my boyfriend is very stable. We are now on our way to the North Pole. Uncle, my relationship with my handsome brother is also very stable. Xiao Qishi. Is it still the original one? Uncle, no. What the hell? Yulashanda didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He thought to himself, then you are stable, my ass. This can't be called stable. Of course, it could also be read as stable and flirtatious. Then they talked about other things. The twins didn't know how to use sonar to communicate, so Xiao Qishi couldn't communicate with them. He felt a little regretful. He was even worried that when the twins grew up, they would have forgotten that they had a big brother who ran away from home. It was entirely possible. The Antarctic killer whale stopped chatting with them and communicated with its relatives alone. Its voice was very pleasant, but the passerby whale brothers couldn't understand it. It couldn't satisfy their eavesdropping desire. It was boring. Fortunately, Xiao Qishi was very good at understanding the meaning of whales. After making the overseas call, he told everyone in concise sentences what he had just said to his family. The cool guys were obviously listening with great interest, but they looked as if they didn't ask anything and didn't want to know. Sizzle. Over the next month, the 7 killer whales ate and drank on the road and came to the Bering Sea at a moderate speed. In September, the Bering Sea had just passed summer, and the temperature was neither cold nor hot. Of course, this was only for the killer whales. The sea surface was not frozen, so it was not cold for them. Yes, killer whales felt the seasonal changes through their vision. After all, they wore so much all year round that they didn't know whether it was cold or warm. The surrounding continents were visibly barren, and the color of the sea water was different from that of tropical areas. After all, they had arrived in North America. It was a sparsely populated place, and Xiao Qishi was very familiar with the atmosphere. Did Ao Daisai have any impression of this place? Thinking that Ao Daisai might remember something in the Arctic, Xiao Qishi's heart surged slightly, and he excitedly rubbed against his boyfriend next to him. Immediately, the other party lazily asked, "Little cutie, did you miss me?" Recently, because they were in a hurry, they had less time to be alone. If they couldn't be alone, they couldn't go on a date. Ao Daisai's question revealed his own thoughts. Well, Xiao Qishi was vague. It's going to be cold soon, and the seawater in the Arctic is very cold. Ao Daisai fell behind a little, blocking little cutie's way with his body, and his voice was full of temptation. Before crossing the strait, do you want to go on a date with me? To enter the Arctic Ocean from the Bering Sea, one had to pass through a long and narrow strait. Okay. Xiao Qishi was embarrassed to death. Fortunately, Ao Daisai used a whisper, and the other killer whales couldn't hear. The next second, Ao Daisai happily informed the other killer whales, "You go first, I'll take Lashan out to play." Isn't this a little too thin? ABC, are you going on a date? Xiao Qishi knew that the killer whales, who lived a monotonous life, could easily guess what they were going to do when they suddenly left the group because there were only a few things in total. Ao Daisai didn't answer. After he finished informing, he took little cutie to find a suitable place for a date. He was bored to death along the way. The author has something to say. W. Chapter 98. There were many uncanny cliffs around the entrance of the strait. Some of them were concave to form a semicircle, and the seawater that poured in was neither too deep nor too shallow. It looked like a big round bed. Xiao Qishi raised his head and saw such a geographical location. He couldn't help but think of a lot of dirty things. Those were the dregs left to him by human society. Fortunately, Ao Daisai, who went with him to find a date location along the coast, didn't seem to be particularly fond of the luxurious waterbed in the eyes of humans. So sometimes, when it came to looking for sex, they were so simple and straightforward that it was beyond reproach. But to say that they weren't perverted, how could they explain the behavior of fencing? They really didn't have that kind of worldly desire. They should not engage in recreational sexual behavior, except for the reproductive behavior between the opposite sex. So in the end, they were still perverted. Ao Daisai, who took on the responsibility of getting a room, was looking for a good place in front. He looked very careful, attaching great importance to the temperature of the water and the sunshine situation, and whether there were any large fish activities around. Once he had prepared all the conditions, he stopped swimming forward. This signal told Xiao Qishi that their rendezvous point was here, a secluded and sunny spot behind the reef. The autumn sun shone warmly on the surface of the water. The water was clear and blue, like a fairy tale world. Whether it was the waters of the Antarctic or the waters of the Arctic, they were clean and refreshing. There was nothing wrong with it except that it was a little cold. Is this the place? Xiao Qishi's voice was slightly dry. He felt like a good child who had strayed into a new world and was kidnapped by a bad boy to get a room. Ao Daisai blinked, as if to ask him if he was satisfied with this place. Xiao Qishi was embarrassed. He swam around and expressed that he had no opinion. Ao Daisai dived sideways and stuck to the chest of the little milk whale. He especially cherished the precious time alone and began to kiss each other's lips and cheeks. It seemed that not only humans like to express intimacy by touching mouths, but the high IQ killer whales also liked this way of intimacy. They would even use their tongues. Xiao Qishi couldn't accept a fat tiger acting like a rogue to himself at once, even if the other party was Ao Daisai. He could only close his eyes and experience Ao Daisai kissing him with the tip of his tongue. Well, although the killer whale skin was a thick layer of fat, the tactile nerves on the surface of the skin were also very developed. So every time their bodies collided with each other, different sparks would burst out. Most of the killer whales would chase each other to a certain extent when they were dating in pairs, and it was difficult for their bodies to have large contact. Chow Chow, Chow Chow, and Ao Chow Chow had a very good condition to get close to him. 2. Ao Chow, Chow Chow, Chow, Chow Chow. To Chow Chow, Chow, Chow gradually. Xiao Qishi heard the sound of Ao Daisai's pleasure. They have more than 60 different tones. The tone of comfort when dating is very special. When Xiao Qishi heard it, He could imagine Ao Daisai's feelings with his eyes closed. He must be very happy and full of hot love. In order to verify his thoughts, Qiao Qishi ignored his shyness and asked the other party who was playing with him in the sea, Ao Daisai, are you happy? Ao Daisai didn't speak, but sang more passionately, stirring the sea with his tail, and couldn't be quiet for a moment. When his tail slapped upward, the current removed some of his power, and the rest slapped gently on Qiao Qishi's tail. It was embarrassing, but at this time, Qiao Qishi had already had several dates with the other party. He was no longer helpless and helpless. He also learned from the other party and controlled his tail to slap downward. Of course, the strength was controlled just enough to not hurt the other party's vulnerable parts. But after all, they were two killer whales. Their intimate behavior, which they thought was very gentle, still caused the water to splash, and the movement was particularly loud. In order to force the little milk whale to be as emotional as he was, Ao Daisai, who was completely aroused, began to chase and express his love. He kept expressing his love with his voice and body language, and in this way, he effectively stimulated his partner. The inexperienced little milk whale, under the stimulation of the other party's enthusiastic pursuit and various tricks, showed itself in embarrassment and shyness. At this moment, Ao Daisai's high mood reached its peak, and his pleasant voice rippled in the sea. Obviously, he liked this kind of little milk whale very much. The frequency of the voice, which he couldn't learn at all, made his partner even worried that he might be too crazy. However, Qiao Qishi gritted his teeth. He didn't have the extra energy to worry about Ao Daisai's state now. He should be worried about himself. Although the game of tail folding was not violent, it was definitely not soft and powerless. It was a little out of control. After all, this way, there would be more sparks. Qiao Qishi could foresee that his tail would be sore in the next few days. But even so, he still didn't want to refuse Ao Daisai's intimacy. The other party liked him, so he asked for him like this. Holding this love, Qiao Qishi stayed obediently by Ao Daisai's side, giving him what he wanted. I like you. Kissing the cute little brother he liked, Ao Daisai didn't completely lose control. He was still influenced by his calm and steady nature, and he seemed to be at ease. Ao Daisai knew when to please the little cutie and when to please himself. Mastering this rule, he kept Qiao Qishi here for a long time. Qiao Qishi's heart was doubled because of Ao Daisai's confession, and he even felt as hot as magma. I like you too, Ao Daisai. I've liked you for a long time. Would the other party have any impression of the past if he mentioned it? His thoughts were in a mess. Before he fell asleep, Qiao Qishi blew bubbles and sobbed, I like you in my previous life, and you like me too. He didn't overestimate himself. After saying that, he was so tired that he fell asleep. Under the starry night, Ao Daisai was silent for a long time. Under his seemingly unfathomable surface, he was actually digesting the words of the little milk whale. Oh, previous life? It's time to pretend to know something when you don't. Otherwise, how can you maintain your cool image? Ao Daisai didn't understand what a previous life was. He only understood that the little cutie liked him, always, always. Then what else it was didn't seem to matter. It was fine as long as the little cutie liked him. But was that really the case? But sometimes, the seemingly simple, straightforward, and carefree killer whale also hid things in his heart. For example, Gary and the others, who had dark memories in their hearts, would probably never forget the bloody scenes they had experienced even when they died. Ao Daisai was not obsessed with those scenes, and he was not as angry as Gary, who had to take them out and talk about them every once in a while. The things that he hid in his heart repeatedly were very small, but every one of them was related to the little cutie that he had abducted. For example, what did the strange words in the little cutie's mouth mean? Ao Daisai wanted to know, but he had no way to know. And the sense of lack that existed in his heart, since he was sensible, had always guided him to find something. This thing seemed to be very important, and he must find it. In the 10th year of Ao Daisai's voyage, he found a little killer whale that he liked very much. Under normal circumstances, this should be the result of his search. However, Ao Daisai still felt that he was missing something. His journey still needed to continue, but with a little milk whale by his side, the journey would no longer be lonely from now on. On a quiet night, the 5 members of the group of cool guys who had nothing to do and no one were resting not far away. Just after eating, Balala asked worriedly, "Will Yolashanda be hungry?" In their impression, young killer whales who were growing up ate a lot. Eddie and Daya were also considered teenagers. They were 10 years older than Xiao Qixi, and they expressed their opinions from their own perspective. "It's only been 2 days. She shouldn't be hungry, right? Or should I bring food to Yolashanda?" The warm-hearted Gary was not sleepy when he talked about this. "What do you guys think? I remember that Yolashanda wanted to eat salmon. Dolphins and whales were indeed not easy to catch, but salmon was too easy to catch." Gary could knock out several of them with a casual slap of his tail in the water, but he didn't like to eat it. Really? Yolashanda's diet is really strange. As an expensive ingredient on the human dining table, salmon was naturally expensive for a reason. But in the eyes of this group of killer whales, it was just ordinary food, and they could eat it. During the time he lived with the killer whales, Xiao Qixi not only talked about salmon, but also king crab, Arctic mussels, bluefin tuna, and so on, and even sea urchin shells. If it weren't for his body size, he would definitely eat until he was full. The group of cool guys were all dismissive. It was unpalatable. If this was heard by humans, they would probably be very depressed. After a rough calculation, it would take at least a few thousand to finish this table of ingredients. The killer whales were chattering and discussing, muttering about the Antarctic little killer whales diet for a while and debating whether to send food over or not. Fortunately, Xiao Qixi automatically blocked the noise before going to bed. This skill was slowly explored after he grew up. When he wanted to sleep quietly, he could automatically block the surrounding sound waves. Ao Daisai needed to be alert at all times to receive news from his companions. So he didn't block his noisy companions. He was only in fragmentary hibernation. It was easy for him. As time passed, the sun rose from the sea level, and in an instant, golden light shone everywhere, and the mist rolled. It was a typical autumn morning. Xiao Qixi went from a deep sleep to a light sleep, and vaguely heard Ao Daisai catching fish. Was he dreaming? He opened his eyes and found that it was not a dream. The behemoth was carefully biting a fish that weighed less than 10 pounds. Upon closer inspection, the meat was orange-yellow with circles of white lines, and it looked fat and fresh. "Xiao Qixi, I like it." Unfortunately, he could only swallow a whole now. To be honest, he couldn't taste anything. He was really lonely eating it. But he was happy. Ao Daisai was really good to him. His love for salmon was leaked out when they were chatting, and it turned out that the other party kept in mind. After feeding the little milk whale with snacks, Ao Daisai slowly returned to the group with the other party. The 2 dorsal fins were unusually conspicuous as they swam on the surface of the water. The closer they got to their companions, the more embarrassed Yolashanda became. It seemed that all the killer whales knew what they had done, but none of them felt embarrassed. It should be because they didn't have the emotions of embarrassment and shyness. Xiao Qixi was depressed. As the saying goes, "I'm not embarrassed. Others are the ones who are embarrassed." This sentence was not suitable to be used here. Whether he was embarrassed or not, the killer whales were definitely not embarrassed. Yolashanda, whose tail was still sore, hid behind Ao Daisai's tall body and didn't want to show up for the time being. But his strangeness seemed to have caused Ao Daisai to worry. The other party quietly asked him what was wrong. Was he sick? Would a killer whale be worried that he would hurt his companions? Yes, they always try to control their behavior and not let their companions get hurt. If Xiao Qixi was hurt, Ao Daisai would blame himself. It's nothing. Xiao Qixi, of course, couldn't say that he was embarrassed. He casually found an excuse. "I'm still a little sleepy." Ao Daisai, who loved him, didn't doubt him. He immediately stopped and said seriously, "Then go to sleep." All the killer whales, still sleepy? AID is not sleepy. This Chow Chi innocently blew bubbles and covered his lie. I'm not sleepy now. I'm pretending. Ao Daisai didn't delve into it. Since he was not sleepy, he continued to move forward. Okay. He pushed the lazy little cutie. 7 killer whales swam into the long strait. It was estimated that they would have to travel here for several days. This was a traffic artery. There were countless ships coming and going, most of them cargo ships. Looking at the huge containers, Chow Chi felt depressed. He seemed to have heard that the bodies of killer whales in the Arctic Ocean were very toxic. Because many toxic chemicals could not be degraded in cold temperatures, they were deposited in the Arctic Ocean. Yes, in recent years, fewer and fewer killer whales from outside came to live in the Arctic Ocean. At present, the ones inhabiting the Arctic Ocean were local killer whales. They had adapted to the environment here, even if their bodies carried so many toxins. This was caused by years of accumulation and would not kill them. However, Chow Chi still did not intend to stay in the Arctic for a long time. If they had the conditions, they would go to live in more livable waters. 7 killer whales went to the Arctic Ocean together, which also attracted the attention of marine animal research organizations. People's understanding of killer whales has never slowed down. As the environment became more and more unfavorable, the situation that happened to killer whales in recent years seemed to be even more incredible. What are they going to do in the Arctic? Although there was not much marine garbage in the waters of the Arctic, the degree of industrial pollution seemed to be more serious. Killer whales that were not born here may not be able to adapt to the environment. Humans would not know that the reason why this group of killer whales went to the Arctic Ocean was because the Antarctic tiger cub wanted to go sightseeing. Of course, the other 6 had never been here, so they just took it as an eye-opener. There were some things that only the Arctic had, such as polar bears. They crossed the strait at the fastest speed and came to the vast Arctic Ocean. The end of autumn came, and there was light snow in the sky. Polar bears began to migrate north. They were white and fat and were not the food of killer whales. After all, the probability of killer whales encountering polar bears was very small. They didn't think this kind of thing was edible at all. Only the Greenland sleeper shark would bite a polar bear. What is that? The 6 bumpkins who had never been to the Arctic looked at the polar bear mother and son migrating with their cubs in the distance. They had never seen it before. They had no idea at all. It's a polar bear. Chow Chi taught them a new word and told them that polar bears were mammals. And the point was that they were not delicious. Polar bear. Ao Daisai tasted the new word carefully, and his eyes fell on the polar bear. Do you think of anything? Chow Chi asked with some expectation, but he did not have much hope. What? Ao Daisai didn't know what the little milk whale wanted to express. He didn't think of anything. Do you hate this place? Chow Chi asked in a different way. I don't hate it. Ao Daisai thought about it seriously and said, Of course you don't hate it. Chow Chi snickered. Because this is your hometown, stupid. Coming to a familiar place, Yelishanda acted like a tour guide and told everyone that they had to chase the glacier when they came to the Arctic. There are many seals on the ice. When it came to seals, everyone was not sleepy anymore. Where's the glacier? Go. Just follow those polar bears. Chow Chi said very sneakily. He had been a polar bear before and knew how difficult it was for polar bears to migrate at sea. A group of killer whales followed nearby and could drive away most of the sharks. Everyone is modest. The staff behind the drones tracking the polar bear migration were very worried that the group of killer whales would harm the polar bear mother and son. After being worried for a long time, they found that the group of killer whales did not mean to hurt the polar bears. Finally, they followed the polar bears to the ice-covered sea. The mother polar bear, who had been worried all the way, successfully climbed onto the ice. The 2 exhausted little bears were tired, but fortunately, they arrived safely. They squatted on the shore and looked blankly at the killer whales opening their mouths and dragging seabirds into the water. The killer whales, who were very careful about protecting their teeth, were not even willing to kill seabirds. Balala drowned the hairy snack and swallowed it in one bite. The other killer whales were not surprised and at the same time, they also wanted to eat the seabirds. Little cutie, do you want to eat? Ao Daisai's eyes swept through the air, as if catching a bird was easy for him. No, no, no. His little cutie desperately refused. What kind of killer whale was this? It thought salmon was not delicious, but wanted to eat this kind of thing with fur and no meat? Salmon. That's right. Is flying in the sky more noble than swimming in the water? Little cutie didn't eat seabirds, and Ao Daisai didn't eat either. The vent behind his head puffed out a white mist and dived down. I'll catch you a seal to eat. The ice area had just spread, and it was not vast at this time. Many local killer whales were also around the floating ice, waiting for hunting opportunities. It was foreseeable that the survival competition here was very fierce, and the most difficult one was undoubtedly the seal. On the shore, they had to be wary of polar bears, and in the water, they had to be wary of killer whales. When they met other killer whales head-on, the two sides did not communicate, but there was no conflict. They just passed each other, and each chose a more suitable hunting place. Xiao Qishi was revisiting the old place, and his mood was very emotional. He felt that any familiar animal was very cute. Hello, Arctic killer whale friend. He greeted very warmly as he passed by the Arctic killer whale. Not only did it have a hometown filter for the Arctic killer whale, but it also had a hometown filter for other animals in the ocean. After the Arctic killer whale swam past, there was a fish that Yulashanda didn't know. It looked like an eel with a long body. Hello. Yulashanda caught up and wanted to say hello. Ao Daisai stopped the little fool and pushed him to another place in time. That's a lamprey. It will attach itself to you and suck your blood. Xiao Qishi said stubbornly, I have thick skin, it can't suck it. The author has something to say. Xiongzi, you can't be straight, but your spirit is strong. Chapter 99. Due to the distance between them, Xiao Qishi only caught a glimpse of an exceptionally enchanting figure. His intuition told him that the other party was a very cute eel. After hearing his indiscriminate greeting, the eel seemed to sense that there was a living creature beside it. It turned its head excitedly. Of course, it did not greet Xiao Qishi. However, Xiao Qishi was a rebellious old baby. When he broke free from Ao Daisai's embrace and turned around, he was frightened by the eel's appearance. Xiao Qishi's mood was, oh wow, what an ugly fish. That fish, the entire head of the eel looked like a flying guillotine. Other than its round mouth full of teeth, there was nothing else. This thing that looked like a prehistoric monster. Was it really not a transmigrator? It looked a little too disgusting. Yulashanda, who wanted to greet the other party, retreated a distance away. He even cried to Ao Daisai, it looks scared you to tears? Ao Daisai's tone was not mocking. He was just stating the facts with a hint of concern. No, it's ugly. Xiao Qishi sniffed. Ao Daisai was silent. He did not understand why the other party would cry when he saw an ugly fish. However, the little milk whale cried because of the eel. Therefore, everything was the eel's fault. I'll bite it to death. After a moment of silence, Ao Daisai thought of the only solution. As long as the eel did not exist, the little milk whale would not cry. Kill the eel? Xiao Qishi cracked. What was Ao Daisai thinking? No, don't touch it. Xiao Qishi's reaction was very big. He could not accept just thinking about that scene. Boo-hoo, let's go. Ignore it. If Ao Daisai wanted to touch such an ugly fish with his mouth and then kiss him, it would be too scary. Ao Daisai quietly looked at the angry Yulashanda. He was probably at a loss, but on the surface, he was very calm. Yes, Ao Daisai, if you dare to kiss me with a mouth that touched the ugly eel, we'll break up. Xiao Qishi thought that he was really going to bite the eel to death, and hurriedly threatened him. This was the most powerful threat he could think of. Even the killer whales around them heard their fierce argument. What's wrong? I heard Yulashanda cry. Aid, who was closest to them, asked worriedly, Ao Daisai, did you bully Yulashanda? Why do you want to break up with you? Chow chow, chow chow. He said, chow chow, he said chow, chow, chow. Chow, chow, chow. Chow Chi calmed down a little. She prayed that the heavens would give her a pair of eyes that she had never seen before as she swam away like a dog. What? Ao Dai Sai made Yolashanda cry, and now they want to break up. Balala, who was eating snacks on the other side, tried to be the class representative and summarize the facts. Oh, Yolashanda wants to leave Ao Dai Sai, who made him cry. When the news reached Carrie, it had completely distorted the facts. He joined in the fun and said, "Are they breaking up? Are they going back to Antarctica?" Back to Antarctica? The captain was speechless. Didn't we just arrive? You guys are so boring. Dia couldn't help but complain. Things were not like this at all. Was he the only whale who thought that his companions were stupid? Yes, it's very boring. Ao Daisai just wanted to be a cool guy, but his companions spread rumors that he and the baby whale had broken up. He could only explain. Yolashanda was scared to tears by the lamprey. I didn't bully him. Xiao Chi-Shi, who was exposed, thought, "Thank you. I was just pretending to cry. Do you know how to exaggerate? You don't have to tell the truth so honestly. I also want to save face." Yolashanda had to explain himself. I didn't cry, but we all heard you cry. Lying is not a good thing." Several handsome men in suits from ABCD spoke together and completely tore off the strong mask of the Antarctic killer whale. Fortunately, they did not dwell on this matter and quickly turned their attention to the eel that made Yolashanda cry. In their impression, the lamprey was small, ugly, and had little meat. It was not worthy of their attention. Ribbon fish is also long. Ribbon fish is delicious. Their thinking was jumping. 1 second, they were studying the eel that made Yolashanda cry, and the next second, they were discussing which kind of fish was delicious. It was not that there was no relationship between the two, but the killer whale's next sentence was really unrelated. "I feel a little cold in my eyes. How about you guys?" "It's okay." They started chatting and seemed to have completely forgotten the fake news that Ao Daisai and Yolashanda are breaking up. "That's great. Ciao, little bear. It turns out that killer whales only have 7 seconds of memory like goldfish." They were chatting very enthusiastically, and a weak voice joined in. "Do you remember that I was scared to tears just now? This is also a direction worth studying. On killer whales' ability to remember daily trivia." "Remember," the killer whales reported. "Yolashanda, sorry to disturb you." The little killer whale was frightened, and then it was very quiet. It obediently followed Ao Daisai and no longer greeted the passing marine animals. It even had a psychological shadow when it saw the long figure. It was quite puzzling. This was not the deep sea thousands of meters below. Was it really okay to look so casual? Ao Daisai may have found that Xiao Chi had been silent for too long. It could not help but rub its body against the other party, and its voice conveyed its worry. "It's okay. I'm sorry, Ao Daisai." Xiao Chi apologized. Because he was too emotional just now, he accidentally said words like break up. Except for Ao Daisai, Xiao Chi had no experience in love with others, but he knew that this situation was still quite excessive, so he had to apologize, whether the other party could understand or not. Ao Daisai seemed to really not understand. The other party just tilted its head, as if it was recalling its little boyfriend who was scared and lost his composure. Then it happily shouted Yolashanda's name, and it did not seem to be affected. "That's good. It's good that you don't think too much." Xiao Chi sighed for the 1,001st time. "Otherwise, a love idiot like me would definitely mess things up." "Ao Daisai, I love you." Xiao Chi confessed. Every time he said this, Ao Daisai would be very happy, and the specific performance was to kiss and rub with him more intimately. Good to him. However, the killer whale's way of expressing good was too simple. Other than feeding, it was still feeding. In the long run, Xiao Chi also learned that it was best to confess when he was hungry so that he could avoid the dilemma of having to eat 2 meals. Today, he still wanted to get rich through his own efforts. To put it simply, he wanted to hunt by himself. However, in Ao Daisai's heart, they were now in an unfamiliar environment, facing unfamiliar prey, and unknown dangers lurking everywhere. For example, just now, in short, the little milk whale should not have intervened in the hunting operation. Ao Daisai did not allow them to act together. Xiao Qishi was so bored that he scratched his feet. No, he did not even have the conditions to scratch his feet now, so he could only take a nap. But how could he take a nap? If it was anywhere else, he would not fight with Otis. However, in the North Pole, there were many legends about him. If he did not fight with Otis, he would feel sorry for himself. After quietly looking around for a moment, Xiao Qishi thought about it again. While Ao Daisai was concentrating on hunting, he quietly left the surroundings and swam to another place where there was prey. This was a familiar place. He went out excitedly, with only delicious seals in his mind. He thought that no matter what, he would catch a seal alone to reward everyone. He would be a good host. Along the endless glaciers, he drifted all the way down. Even if he could not find any prey, he was very happy to have such a relaxing time. The whale drifted about 4 to 5 kilometers alone. Yelashanda, who was lying on his back and basking in the sun, heard movement around him. He looked up and saw a male killer whale in the distance. There was nothing special about it. Xiao Qishi intended to turn a blind eye to it. The key was that the other party was chasing a yellow industrial bucket and playing alone on the sea with the bucket on its head. Gulialu, Xiao Qishi was stunned. He almost choked on water because he was stunned. This scene was quite familiar. He counted the obvious keywords: the Arctic, a small yellow bucket, and a male killer whale playing with a small yellow bucket. Damn, wasn't this Ao Daisai combined? However, he already had an Ao Daisai at home. He had kissed and slept with her. He did not care. The one at home was really an Ao Daisai. Xiao Qishi panicked for a moment, but he soon analyzed with a serious face. Maybe it was a coincidence. He knew that killer whales were very common, and small yellow buckets were also quite common. This big killer whale might be playing with a small yellow bucket just for fun. Killer whales were curious about these things. Don't panic, don't panic. Since you have determined that the Atlantic killer whale is an Ao Daisai, you have to trust your intuition and not be swayed. There was no rule that Ao Daisai had to be born in the Arctic, right? Looking at the killer whale in front of him, Xiao Qishi planned to go over and get in touch with him. He swam over and watched him play with a very friendly attitude. The killer whale playing with the small yellow bucket found that other killer whales were approaching and quieted down. However, the small yellow bucket was still on his pectoral fin. This scene made Xiao Qishi quite nostalgic. He wanted to say, "Big brother, can you lend me this bucket to play with?" A killer whale from the South Pole and an Arctic killer whale looked at each other. For a while, no one made a sound. Well, because it was impossible to communicate with each other even if they made a sound, the languages of the North and the South were definitely not interconnected. No matter how good Xiao Qishi's learning ability was, it was impossible for him to learn the language of the Arctic killer whale as an Antarctic killer whale. He had no chance to hear it at all. In that case, he could only communicate with his eyes. How much he could understand seemed to depend on God's will. "Little bear," Xiao asked with his eyes, "why are you playing with a small yellow bucket?" The other party looked at him disdainfully. "What does it have to do with you?" Damn, his attitude was too arrogant. This couldn't be Ao Daisai. Of course, this was just Xiao Qishi's imagination. Alas, the two of them had no way to communicate at all. Why don't you give me your bucket?" This time, Xiao Qishi not only spoke, but also acted. Ming Jing didn't beat around the bush. He didn't take a fancy to the killer whale, but he took a fancy to the other party's toy. On the other hand, the killer whale protected its belongings and used its actions to clearly reject Xiao Qishi. Xiao Qishi, "Oh, you still dare to refuse?" He thought to himself, "I have 6 thugs, and they're passing whales that make all marine animals tremble in fear." Okay, he started to bully whales. Give me your bucket, and I'll let you go. How about it?" The killer whale didn't say anything, but behind him, he vaguely saw the dorsal fins of more than a dozen Arctic killer whales slowly approaching. It was worse. People with trypophobia would probably go crazy when they saw this scene. Xiao Qishi didn't have trypophobia, but he was still afraid. His tail was numb. It turned out that this was a hidden big shot, not a cat or dog that could be bullied by any whale. Excuse me, excuse me. He quickly turned around and slipped away with a flick of his tail. Woo 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 woo. He was sure that the killer whale that would bully him like this definitely had nothing to do with Aodicei, the Arctic killer whale. I don't think I did anything, right? This was slander. He didn't move at all. Plus, he was protecting his toy. This killer whale from the outside was very unreasonable. Xiao Qishi escaped from the other party's pursuit range and quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Then, he felt that he didn't have to be so guilty. He hadn't done anything yet, had he? No. Thinking about what he had done just now, Xiao Qishi felt ashamed. When he left home, he vowed to be a chivalrous passing whale. He scratched his head. In the end, after being out for so long, he didn't seem to have done any good deeds. Just now, he wanted to suppress the local snake and snatch other people's things. Fortunately, no one knew. Yelishanda, who are you threatening? Do you need us to come over and help? Gary's eager voice sounded. He hadn't fought for a long time and seemed to want to stretch his muscles and bones. His tone was full of energy. No, I didn't threaten anyone. Xiao Qishi was embarrassed. Was this what they meant by good things don't go out, but bad things spread far and wide? Is there really nothing? Gary didn't believe that there was a problem with his understanding. I clearly heard that you wanted to fight just now. It was a pity that he didn't. I heard it too. Balala's voice was vague. Obviously, he took the time to talk to them. Yelishanda is quite fierce. What are you eating? Xiao Qishi. Balala, who was eating alone, thought that he shouldn't have spoken. Little cutie, where did you go? Probably because he heard their conversation, Aodicei's voice sounded in Xiao Qishi's ear. Come back quickly. Aodicei, did you catch a seal? They all heard that Aodicei caught a seal for Yelishanda just now. What does it have to do with you? Aodicei responded seriously. Xiao Qishi blinked. He only felt that this scene was particularly familiar, as if he had seen it somewhere before. After a while, he remembered that he had speculated about the strange killer whale psychology before. Xiao Qishi, oh, my imagination was based on something. A 3D killer whale would really ask this. Damn it, Aodicei only loves Yelishanda. They felt that ever since Yelishanda, Aodicei had become even more harsh to them. Do you know what harsh words mean? You even use idioms. Yes, Aodicei doesn't love me anymore. Eddie was the youngest. He thought that Aodicei, who was his age, played best with him. They used to be very good partners. He used to bite every seal that Aodicei caught. Now Aodicei had changed. Eddie, he didn't love you. Dia pierced the fantasies of some killer whales. As the most rational one, he sometimes really didn't want to be associated with these stupid beeps. Bullsh asterisk T, he loved me, Eddie insisted. No, Aodicei personally clarified the rumors in his busy schedule. It didn't matter before. He never cared about what his companions said, but now he seemed to want to refute the rumors. The other killer whales laughed at Eddie together. Xiao Qishi also laughed, but not out of ridicule. She just thought that these killer whales were really cute. The more familiar she was with their language, the more she felt that they were all little angels. Don't be sad, everyone. As the eye of the storm, Xiao Qishi actively said, when I'm full, I'll go catch seals for you to eat. ABCEF. They fell into a strange silence. After thinking about it, no one picked up the topic. They weren't embarrassed. The one who was embarrassed was Xiao Qishi himself. What did they mean? So angry. Xiao Qishi listlessly returned to Aodicei's side. The other party bullied him and instantly seemed to surround him. His voice was slightly cold. Don't leave me quietly. The chill made Xiao Qishi's scalp tingle. Although he didn't have hair, he had a scalp. I know, I'm sorry. Since he was wrong, he should apologize obediently. Speaking of which, he didn't mean to not tell him. It was because Aodicei was focused on hunting at that time, and Xiao Qishi didn't want to disturb the other party's state. The most important thing for wild animals was hunting and survival. Well, who would have thought that Aodicei would care so much about such details? The two sides hugged each other in the cold sea. Ao Daisai seemed to have returned to normal, and his voice was as gentle as usual. What did you encounter? He also seemed to be interested in Xiao Qishi's experience. Xiao Qishi's focus was elsewhere. He looked at the seal and said weakly, "The seal is going to be cold. Ao Daisai. Ao Daisai." What else could Ao Daisai say? He could only tear off the seal's skin first and feed this little milk whale that couldn't be beaten, scolded, or fierce. Successfully changing the topic, Xiao Qishi rolled his smart eyes and thought, "Hee, I hope everyone's boyfriends are so easy to deal with now." He didn't want to talk about what he had just experienced at all. Although he was firm in his heart that the killer whale by his side now was Ao Daisai, even if there was a 1% deviation, it still put a lot of pressure on Xiao Qishi. This 1% possibility caused him to feel afraid of letting Ao Daisai down when he looked at him now. If he was wrong, how sad would the real Ao Daisai be? It was as if the key point of the Earth's explosion was pressing on him, and there was pressure no matter what he did. After thinking about it, Xiao Qishi decided not to confess his troubles to Ao Daisai, because confessing to the other party would only increase his troubles. "Thank you, Ao Daisai, I'm full." Xiao Qishi had a burden in his heart, and he didn't feel that eating the seal was very tasty. After all, he used to eat most of the food himself. Now, he pushed the remaining seal meat back to Ao Daisai. Of course, Ao Daisai didn't know that the little milk whale had a burden in his heart. As he ate, he glanced at Yolashanda, who was a little strange. Obviously, he didn't have the memory of the goldfish. "What exactly did you encounter outside?" "Huh, why wasn't this topic over yet?" Since the other party wanted to get to the bottom of it, Xiao Qishi had to cut the beginning and the end and say it again. "Hey, I met a big killer whale, and his toy was very beautiful. I wanted to grab his toy to play with. Was I wrong?" Ao Daisai blinked and said, "You weren't wrong. As for why Yolashanda didn't grab it and came back with his tail between his legs, he was smart enough not to ask. The author has something to say. Yolashanda, you weren't wrong. Enjoy _____. Chapter 100. Xiao Qishi didn't expect Ao Daisai to lie through his teeth. His mood was quite complicated. Brother, you are indeed a model boyfriend. Secondly, he was glad that Ao Daisai didn't raise children. Otherwise, his worldview would be distorted to the ends of the earth. A gust of sea breeze with snowflakes blew over, making Xiao Qishi's bald head feel a faint chill. He shrank his neck and laughed foolishly in his heart. Just like that, he thought that the episode of stealing toys was over, so he didn't think about it anymore. Since the last time Ao Daisai had sent Xiao Qishi 6 little yellow balls from afar, he hadn't sent any gifts. It seemed that he felt that Yolashanda didn't really want to play. Until today, Ao Daisai seemed to have discovered that Yolashanda's demand for toys was far beyond his imagination. Otherwise, why would he steal them? Yolashanda, I really didn't. It was purely a joke. He wanted to test the other party's temperament. In the end, a bunch of big brothers came out, which was also unexpected. Fortunately, the other party didn't chase after him. After it snowed, the ice layer thickened visibly. Occasionally, it formed a circle and froze in a relatively strange way. To put simply, it was bumpy. Places where animals often moved around wouldn't be frozen easily. This was an operation that Xiao Qishi couldn't be more familiar with. He didn't forget to remind everyone not to be surrounded by ice when they slept, otherwise they would have to dive out. Everyone, is diving a bad thing? Xiao Qishi! Exclamation point. Then you can sleep however you want. Anyway, killer whales that weren't particularly stupid would hardly do such a stupid thing. Balala and the others weren't stupid. Even if it was their first time visiting the North Pole, they were more familiar with it here than in their hometown. So many glaciers. It had snowed heavily for several nights, and now the North Pole was covered in snow and ice. Eddie, do you think the seals in the South Pole are easier to catch, or the seals in the North Pole? Gary swam among the ice floes, rolling his body as he discussed this serious issue with his companions. I feel that the seals in Antarctica are easier to catch. Eddie muttered to himself for a moment and said what he believed to be the correct answer. That's your misconception. Because there are more seals in the South Pole, you think it's easier to catch them. In fact, the seals in the North Pole are easier to catch. They're more stupid. Ballara's analysis was reasonable. It seemed that his answer was more convincing. Is it because of the cold? Eddie did not change his answer, but he had discovered a new problem. The North Pole is as cold as the South Pole. Silly. Dia couldn't take it anymore. Every day, he felt that his IQ was dropping, and the stupidest among them was Eddie. I also think that the Antarctic seals are easier to catch. The captain cast a crucial vote. Currently, it was 2-2. Gary said, the Arctic ones are clearly easier to catch. Eddie said, Antarctica. Carrie replied, the North Pole. Hearing their endless argument, the other killer whales seemed to be used to it, but Xiao Qixi could not help but smile. Just then, Carrie and Eddie asked him in unison, Yolashanda, what do you think? Oh, did the cannon fire hit me? How could Yolashanda let himself get involved in this kind of dispute? He said reasonably, I've never caught a seal before. I don't know. This answer was so convincing that everyone let him go easily. No one would deliberately step on a small killer whale's sore spot. Xiao Qixi, what sore spot? As for A.O. Daisai, no one would ask him because to A.O. Daisai, the seals in the four oceans were all very weak. However, this topic was basically unrelated to A.O. Daisai, but A.O. Daisai was very concerned about it. It seemed that he was worried that Yolashanda would have a bad feeling of inferiority. Once, before falling asleep, he inadvertently said to Yolashanda, it's okay. Don't be unhappy. You're very good. Yolashanda was suddenly comforted, and his heart warmed. Why? This was a sentence that comforted a little trash. QAQ. I'm not a little trash. In order to wash away the suspicion of being a trash, Yolashanda felt that he should get up and do something practical. On a sunny day without snow, everyone was sleeping. Usually, Yolashanda was also sleeping, and if everyone didn't wake up, he wouldn't wake up. He slept too soundly. But today, Xiao Qixi woke up earlier than the birds, and he was going out to hunt alone. Winter was officially coming. These days, it had been snowing intensively, accompanied by a little wind and waves. The killer whales remained alert in the snowy days, and only when it was sunny would they sleep wantonly. Xiao Qixi had a premeditated plan. When he slept, he deliberately slept on the side. A.O. Daisai was very happy for him to sleep like this. He didn't like his companions to come over, especially little Eddie, who liked to sleepwalk. Xiao Qixi successfully sneaked out, and with a few tail flicks, he ran far away. He was familiar with the habits of seals, and he was also very clear about the advantages of killer whales. It didn't take long for a ringed seal to fall into his mouth. This was a routine operation, and there was really nothing to be proud of. For some reason, A.O. Daisai woke up with a start. He saw that he habitually sprayed out a bunch of water mist, which immediately turned into dry ice in the cold Arctic. A.O. Daisai looked around blankly and finally found that Xiao Qixi was not by his side. Without thinking much, he made a shrill sound around him, as if he had lost a child. Now, the killer whales of the same kind within 100 miles knew that someone of the same kind was looking for his companion. The killer whales said that it wasn't necessary. Couldn't they just contact him one-on-one? This kind of grand search method was generally used to find disabled killer whales who couldn't take care of themselves. For example, the lost target's positioning system was impaired, or their nerves were not serious. Some killer whales' brains were damaged, and their nervous system would become chaotic. They couldn't tell the direction and couldn't hunt normally. What was even more excessive was that after the killer whales knew the Yolashanda was lost, they didn't feel that there was anything wrong with A.O. Daisai using this method to find Yolashanda. Fortunately, Xiao Qixi didn't know about this. Otherwise, he would have fought with this group of killer whales. He just heard that A.O. Daisai was looking for him. I'm on my way, A.O. Daisai. Xiao Qixi answered vaguely, sounding a little out of breath. Yes, because he had a fat seal in his mouth. Ah, Yolashanda, where have you been? We came to find you. You sneaked out to play while they were sleeping. Remember to bring me next time." The one who whispered was AID. They swarmed in the direction of Qiao Qixi and couldn't wait for a moment. The fastest swimmer was Ao Daisai. His speed made it difficult for his companions to catch up. Usually, Ao Daisai was the fastest swimmer. Now that the other party suddenly sped up, his companions couldn't catch up. The captain was the oldest. He slowed down and was the first to admit his old age. "Hey, I'm not going to chase. I'll take it slow. I'm so tired. I need to catch my breath too," Balala said, panting. The other three were still competing with Ao Daisai, but the captain and Balala dared to bet that they couldn't catch up with Ao Daisai. Sure enough, Jiali, who couldn't afford to play, was the first to complain. "Ao Daisai, can you slow down a little?" I can't catch up." AID and Dia didn't say a word. Obviously, they could still catch up. This situation inevitably made the old cadres feel jealous. "So what if we catch up? Will the fast swimmer get food?" "Yes, the fast swimmer gets food." Ao Daisai, Dia, and the other two arrived at Yulashanda's side. Before they could catch their breath, they suddenly saw Yulashanda holding a seal in his mouth. They were a little dumbfounded. Was this Yulashanda? He caught a seal? "Are you here? Why is it so quiet?" The companions behind seemed to feel the unusual silence. What was going on? "We're here. We're here." AID looked at the situation in front of him and wasted a few seconds to organize his words. "It's like this." A seal bumped into Yulashanda's mouth. ABC. Qiao Qixi. Yulashanda, who was still panting, couldn't help but widen his eyes. "Brother, you're the best killer whale I've ever seen. Why don't you become a scriptwriter?" Idiot AID. Dia despised the noisy killer whale next door. How could there be a seal bumping into a killer whale's mouth? He was speechless and reported the news again. Don't listen to AID's nonsense. This seal was caught by Yulashanda himself. "Oh, do you remember the argument last time?" He suddenly remembered this matter. The captain suddenly announced, "We won." AID was suddenly ecstatic. He had won against Yulashanda. He circled Yulashanda on the spot. "I like you, Yulashanda. Let him win against Jiali." But his body was quickly pushed away by Ao Daisai. Ao Daisai, who was equally surprised just now, came in front of Yulashanda and looked at his little cutie seriously. His gaze was gentle. Qiao Qixi felt that his gaze was saying, "Cutie, Daddy is very pleased." Wasn't it just catching a seal? Being watched by so many pairs of eyes. Qiao Qixi was so embarrassed that her tail curled up. Okay. This was normal for him, okay? He also knew how to hunt big water buffaloes and kill wildebeest alone. Therefore, a mere seal was nothing to him. Don't praise me anymore. It's embarrassing. Awesome. Ao Daisai had enough of looking at the little cutie and went over to reward her with a kiss. The embarrassment doubled. Yulashanda caught a seal. "Leave some for us." When Jiali realized what had happened, the first thought that appeared in his mind was, "Wait for us to arrive before eating." After being reminded, the first thought that came to AID's mind was, "Are we qualified to share the seal that Yulashanda caught?" Two pairs of eyes looked at Ao Daisai. "Qiao Qixi, why are you looking at him? Shouldn't you be looking at me? I'm the owner of this seal. Let everyone eat." Yulashanda generously offered the seal and also comforted her boyfriend by whispering, "Wait for me to catch more for you tomorrow." "Thank you, Yulashanda." AID and Dia looked very happy. Firstly, it was because there was a seal to eat, and it was caught by Yulashanda. Secondly, it was because Jia Li and the rest had not arrived yet. Ao Daisai did not seem to mind that the little cutie shared the first seal that he caught with his companions. On the contrary, he was happy that Yulashanda could hunt on her own. It was very important to survive in the wild. However, Yulashanda's ability to hunt and him continuing to feed Yulashanda were two different things. The two had nothing to do with each other. Balala and the rest arrived soon after. Seeing was believing. They finally accepted that Yulashanda could catch seals. Perhaps they regarded Yulashanda as a cub that had just grown up. A cub learning how to hunt on her own was something worth celebrating. "Why don't we go and catch a small whale to eat?" someone suggested. Then they started to discuss this topic. For the first time, Xiao Qishi realized that killer whales were so ritualistic. When they were happy, they would catch a delicious one. When they were unhappy, they would also catch a delicious one. In the end, their plan did not take shape. Perhaps it was because there were too many killer whales nearby, and the whales on their menu were not active in this area. Chapter 101. The voice came from Xiao Qishi. He had seen Ao Daisai floating on the surface of the sea a few minutes ago. Before he could feel happy, he realized that something was wrong with him. Firstly, he didn't reply to his call in time. Secondly, he couldn't control his body and was carried away by the waves. Xiao Qishi was very anxious. He thought that something was going to happen to Ao Daisai. What he didn't know was that Ao Daisai had just escaped from the dangerous center of the wind that was above level 11. Also, for some unknown reason, his nervous system was temporarily disrupted. Ao Daisai, who had been tense for a long time, just wanted to rest for a while. Who knew that the moment he relaxed, the whole whale would go wrong. It was like an electrical appliance had suddenly short-circuited. For a few seconds, his mind went blank, and then it restarted. The moment he was held by Yolashanda, Ao Daisai's consciousness was not very clear, but his body began to control itself instinctively and stabilized itself in the sea. This way, Yolashanda's pressure was reduced a lot. "Are you okay?" He felt that Ao Daisai could still control himself. He was overjoyed. "So what happened just now?" Yolashanda, Ao Daisai, said hesitantly. How should he describe this voice? It sounded a little tentative and a little confused. "It's me." Xiao Qishi sighed in relief. He thought that Ao Daisai was surprised by his sudden appearance. So he explained, "I was worried about you, so I came out to look for you." Ao Daisai wouldn't scold him for being reckless, right? Anyway, if he wanted to scold him, he would scold Ao Daisai first. Xiao Qishi thought to himself. Ao Daisai didn't scold Yolashanda for being reckless. He seemed to be experiencing an unusual situation. Generally speaking, the higher the intelligence of a creature, the more in-depth and detailed the processing of information. As the saying goes, the smarter a creature is, the more he thinks. When Ao Daisai received the memory of the polar bear as a lion, because the intelligence of both of them was about the same, he didn't have to think much. He only needed to follow his animal instincts and love Yolashanda as usual. It was very simple. When Ao Daisai received the memory of the polar bear and lion as a killer whale, his inner world was enriched. The impact of the past, those undeclared emotions, was no less than the surrounding waves. Ao Daisai looked a little uncomfortable as he leaned against Yolashanda. They were the most intimate partners. Secondly, he was sorry. It seemed that Alexander was always trying to find him, repeatedly trying to confirm who he was. When she finally made up her mind to be with him, she would lose confidence because of various details. For example, every time she mentioned something about the past to him, she would not be able to continue the conversation. Alexander would always feel defeated and dejected. But although he was very emotional, there was still a big difference between them. Fortunately, Ao Daisai seemed like he would never reject Yolashanda. He thought for a while and reminded him, "Focus on swimming." Then he added in a soft voice, as if he was coaxing Xiao Qishi, "I'll play with you after the storm passes." Perhaps in Ao Daisai's mind, all the actions of playing with the little bear were called playing. Xiao Qishi! Exclamation point. It's coming, it's coming. When Ao Daisai remembered, the smell of his old father hit him in the face. It seemed that he was still treating him like a little bear. "I'm all grown up now. I weigh 3 tons, Ao Daisai." Xiao Qishi swam, puffing and puffing. It was obviously very strenuous, but he still could not help but spare some energy to talk. "No, He could not let Ao Daisai continue to be so smug. He had to let the other party know the truth. Don't forget, Yulashanda chased behind Ao Daisai and said aggressively, I was the one who raised you in your previous life. How many zebras did you eat? How many wildebeest did you eat? And wild boars? The little bear beside him was very emotional. The more he spoke, the angrier he became. Ao Daisai thought that it was because he did not respond, so he replied, You also ate a lot of seals, beluga whales, and smelts. What else? Let him think. Yeah. Xiao Qishi felt a bolt from the blue. Oh no. He looked up at the current weather. It should be one frost after another. The sky was falling and the earth was cracking. Did Ao Daisai know how to chat? Little Bear was quiet. Ao Daisai was more focused on swimming with the other party. Away from the center of the storm, everything seemed to be easier to deal with. The two strong killer whales supported each other and moved forward. The situation was not as critical as before. His companions also asked worriedly, Yulashanda, have you found Ao Daisai? The one who asked him was the captain. He seemed to feel that he did not express himself clearly, so he added, We came out to look for you. Yulashanda disappeared in the blink of an eye. Gary and the others could not do anything to him. At this time, the A, B, C, D, and D, who were united at the crucial moment, stopped quarreling. They agreed to look for the two lost companions. Found them. You guys stay where you are and don't move. Yulashanda urged. The wind and waves crashed. Ao Daisai's weak voice was heard. The wind is so strong outside. Why can't I see you guys? Where are you? You're going in the wrong direction. Come back quickly. Daya reminded this idiot. He saw the other party's tail. It was heading in a direction that was far away from them. Didn't I tell you to stay where you are? Yulashanda did not know whether to laugh or cry. He felt very guilty. It was too dangerous outside. The killer whales said in unison, Why should we listen to Yulashanda? Yulashanda. Black man with a question mark face. JPJO Daisai. Stay where you are and don't move. She felt an obvious pain in her heart. It was even more uncomfortable than the night he left. Suddenly, she could not bear to continue asking. If Ao Daisai really took care of all the brothers, then who took care of Ao Daisai in his old age? As if he had heard the question in Yulashanda's heart, Ao Daisai told him everything in order to make him happy. I lived through 15 rainy seasons. Yes, it's great to live to 15 years old. Xiao Qishi resisted the urge to cry. It was really great to live to 15 years old in the wild. It was really great. During the last rainy season, I went to the lake that you liked again, Xiao Qishi interrupted. Was there a lot of croaking? Ao Daisai's voice was light and cheerful. Yes. Xiao Qishi was also happy. That place is very beautiful. It's really worth going back to take a look. Ao Daisai did not agree. He paused and continued. Because I missed you. What he meant was that he did not think that the lake was beautiful. He went back to that place only because he missed Yulashanda. Yes. Xiao Qishi's heart went crazy. I missed you too. I missed you so much. Ah, it's so good to know what you're thinking. Boo-hoo. What happened after that? Did you encounter any danger? No. Ao Daisai diverted some of his attention and used echolocation to scan the surroundings. He did not find any fish and continued. I lay in the cave where we made it. I don't want to go out to look for food again. Xiao Qishi. Ao Daisai leaned towards Xiao Qishi. There are no companions in Yulashanda on the grassland. I'm very lonely. In the end, he chose to end himself. After a long, long time, Xiao Qishi found his voice. Boo-hoo. His heart ached. He never dreamed that Ao Daisai's ending would be like this. Boo-hoo. He was a little shaky as he corrected his boyfriend. It's not mating. It's making love. Ao Daisai did not understand, but whatever Little Bear said was the truth. Little Bear. He used another nickname to call Yulashanda. Alishan was very embarrassed at this moment, but he also felt that he missed it. Did you always call me that in the North Pole? No. Ao Daisai thought for a while and said a detail that Xiao Qixi had neglected. Polar bears are not smart. Therefore, during that time, he did not have any special mental activities. Everything was still more based on instinct. Oh, that's right. That's even more interesting. Xiao Qixi looked as if she had found a treasure. She asked her boyfriend, "Then why do you like me? I'm not a female." Asking Ao Daisai, who was a polar bear, this question was destined to be unanswered. How would he know? Maybe he didn't even understand what it meant to like. However, asking Ao Daisai, who was a killer whale, he could say that he could give the answer effortlessly. Expressing love was not unfamiliar to killer whales, although Ao Daisai was an atypical killer whale. Because you're cute. I like you. Xiao Qixi. I like you too. She enjoyed the warm atmosphere sweetly and continued to ask questions. He was very satisfied. Birds are good. I just want to be with you. I said that I'm willing to be a dung beetle. Don't be so picky. What's a dung beetle? There are some on the grassland. You've seen them before, but I didn't tell you. Because he didn't have the ability to speak at that time, Xiao Qixi tried to describe it as best as he could. Do you still remember the little insect rolling a dung ball? That was the little insect that ate dung. Ao Daisai was silent. This question could also be listed as one of the top 10 unsolved mysteries of Little Bear. Why didn't he mind? Don't be a dung beetle. Ao Daisai didn't care about dung balls. The main reason was that the insect was too weak and still dangerous. There was no way for it to protect itself. Yes, yes. If you can, don't be a dung beetle. However, Ao Daisai, you have to accept that we can't be animals at the top of the food chain every time. Maybe the next time we'll be reincarnated as sardines, Xiao Qixi said. Just then, a group of sardines happened to be in front. Ao Daisai looked at the slender fish. That was the food that dolphins like to eat, and killer whales like to eat dolphins. Ao Daisai thought to himself, why don't we eat all the dolphins in the four oceans? That way, the sardines won't be eaten. Little Bear continued to babble. I want to throw myself into the zoo. No matter what animal it is, I can have a good time in the zoo. What's a zoo? Ao Daisai interrupted the unformed plan in his mind. A home for animals built by humans. Food and accommodation are provided, and you can find a partner. However, you won't be forced to accept it. If you don't like it, you can reject it. Xiao Qixi was very clear that because he often visited zoos, there were advantages and disadvantages. It's just that several companions may live in one place, such as lions. It may also live with tigers. Well, the space is not free. It's suitable for an otaku like me. Maybe when I really live in a zoo, I won't be used to it. No, Ao Daisai thought about it and expressed that he didn't like it. You can escape from prison. As long as you can escape from prison, you can run all over the zoo. However, it can't be a ferocious animal that escapes from prison. The staff won't panic if a small animal like Little Bear escapes from prison. Lions can't. Hey, the zoo is my dream. Xiao Qixi talked to himself and didn't notice that Ao Daisai's figure had gone far away. Well, he went hunting again. But the killer whale is also very good. It's carefree and can beat whoever it wants. Hey, Ao Daisai. Finding that Ao Daisai had disappeared again, Yelashanda twisted his body and followed. It's here. Well, the killer whale is very good. Ao Daisai took time out and gently coaxed Little Bear, showing that he had been listening. Yes, he was really satisfied with the strength and status of the killer whale, and he also knew that the killer whale could live for a long time, many times longer than a lion.